Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS speed rescue. Contact, nice to be in orbit.
The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Broadcasting from a shack on a hill in the mossy creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas, this is Lighting the Void, and I'm your host, Joe Root. Thank you for joining us tonight on The Fringe FM, KTOK Digital Broadcasting. We're live here, and we're here for you Monday through Friday night, every single week, and tonight we're going to get into the dream world, lucid dreaming, maybe even a little astral travel, also dream interpretation, with two of the best people I know on the subject, which is Ian Wilson and J.M. DeBord is with us tonight. So this is going to be a little different, right? Because we usually have one guest and then we talk about all kinds of things. But bringing these two together, I think, is going to make for an interesting show. I want to thank our sponsors at getthetea.com. I can't thank them enough for what they've done for me and what they've done for our listeners. So if you do really need a good cleanse, GMO-free, that's where you go. The tea is like their basic stuff, man. That's what you need. But they have a ton of other stuff on there, and it's all non-GMO. We wouldn't be with them if they wasn't the best. Also, ancientlifeoil.com, the best CBD oil on the planet, and metaphorical archaeology. Barbara Charlton is really helping a lot of people with that. So you guys, if you've got any trauma from a paranormal experience, you need to get in contact with them. We talked about it last night. We've talked about it. It seems like it's something that we've brought up this week, is the EFT tapping. I think it's something that more people are realizing how, I guess, just how good it actually works, you know. And Barbara the way Barbara does it is she does the EFT, but I think it's more of her nature. The reason why people like her so much and it's so successful, because it's a very nurturing nature and she's very discreet. So you give them a call at 214-995-3754 or look up Metaphorical Archaeology on Facebook. Also, head over to ufoseekers.com. Backed and supported by this show, Lighting the Void, and The Fringe FM. If you want a journalistic and real approach to ufology, give them a follow on Twitter at UFO Seekers, and give them a call if you've had a sighting at 661-UFO-7889. Man, I want to tell, like, I got a listener, man, that, you know, sometimes it ain't really about the donations, even though, like, we really need your donations, especially now. But sometimes I get things that are just so thoughtful, man. It's hard not to choke up. And my brother, man, Jose, sent me a box, and he decorated it, and he put cards in there, and he just really took his time. It was like an art project. And inside that box is one of my favorite things in the world. And he sent me like 9 packs of Mike and Ike's, man. And I got to tell you, Jose, I've been eating those Mike and Ike's since I got them. That's the thing. I just can't put them down. I ate Mike and Ike's for dinner tonight. I mean, I probably bleed Mike and Ike's. It's my favorite candy. So thank you, Jose, for sending that. I really appreciate it. I really do, brother. That means a lot. You can chat with us tonight in the chat room, or you can call in at 1-800-588-0335. The chat room is a Discord server. It's very cool, and it's the only way to chat nowadays if you're going to do it. But if you need the link, just go to thefringe.fm, click on chat, and there you go. You'll be in there. But when you get in there, here's what I'm seeing a lot. Everybody gets into the welcome channel, and they don't realize that they're just in the welcome room with the rules and stuff. There's really nobody there. you have to look over to the left with all the hashtags, and there's a chat room that says main hall. That's usually where everybody's chatting at, but there's other rooms like books, tarot, your experiences, things like that. All right, so I just wanted to clear that up. Also want to let everybody know too, before we get into this deep discussion tonight, that there are several ways to listen. If you're having any time, if you're, I don't know, let's say you're out in the boondocks and you're not getting a good stream, there is an AAC stream on the website as well that is half the bandwidth, and it sounds just as good, if not better. Or you can go to the Paranormal Radio app, and instead of using the Fringe FM one, if you search down a little bit, you'll see my lovely mug there, and it'll say Lighting the Void. That's the AAC stream as well. Or you can call the listen line too. All right, so let's get this show on the road. Oh, real quick, I want to thank Richard Allen Miller for coming out last night. Also, Navier Alora, that was really cool, doing some Mayan astrology. So thank you guys as well. So let's bring on our guest here, right? So first, we're going to bring on J.M. DeBord, author of 4 books. He's a dream interpretation expert, the creator of Dream School and the D3 system, a public speaker and lecturer. He's been a popular guest on several media programs. He's also the Reddit moderator of one of the biggest dream, if not, I think it is the biggest dream discussion board on Reddit. And on any given day, you can find him there talking about stuff, offering dream interpretations and advice to all comers. And then most Redditors who encounter him there do not know that he's actually a best-selling author and renowned dream expert. He's just rad, R-A-D, on there. But JM is a community moderator of subreddits of dreams, Carl Jung, Edgar Cayce, past lives, reincarnations, and what is this? Balintawak, right? So, yeah, thanks for coming on, brother. JM's good to have you. That one threw me off, man. I didn't see that one last time I had you on here. So,
Balintawak. Yeah, a friend of mine he's one short of being the Grand Master, and I helped him out by making it known. It's a Filipino martial art. They fight with sticks, and then it goes into like jujitsu and other forms that they bring into it. But it's really interesting. And yeah, I did that for a friend. But I do all those other subreddits too. The Dreams one is the one that's probably the biggest. We have 130,000 subscribers. And it's the largest in the world that I know of. There might be some site in China or something that has a larger, group, but we wouldn't know. But as far as English language sites, it's the largest site for dreams anywhere in the world.
Fantastic.
So it's good to be back, man. 3rd time.
Yeah, no, we had to reschedule too. So I'm glad to have you back. Absolutely. And let's bring Ian on too. So everybody, hopefully remember Ian Wilson, but if you don't, I can tell you about him. Back in 1986, at the age of 14, Ian Wilson had a first encounter with a small group of people during the Perseid Meteor shower. And following that encounter, Ian started to explore a state known as lucid dreaming in 1987 and has explored consciousness during sleep for over 32 years. So he's very experienced at doing this. And Ian is the author of 5 books entitled You Are Dreaming, The Theory of Precognitive Dreams, Deja Reve, A Course of Consciousness, and Living a Dream That Lasts a Lifetime. And thanks for coming on, Ian. It's good to have you back as well.
Oh, I'm very excited. This was one discussion I was so looking forward to. So I want to thank both of you for putting this together, because this is it's a real honor. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, I mean,
Thanks,
look, we got a dream interpreter and a guy that runs one of the biggest boards on the country and Reddit, and both of you are authors, and you've got a ton of experience with this. And I'm thinking maybe we can crack some codes on this thing tonight or something,
Absolutely.
And get down to it. So I guess the first thing I would like to do, before we start the discussion, is I want to think about a dream that I had first, JM, with you real quick, that I can't get down to it. All right. So I've been having a lot of crazy dreams lately, and I wanted to ask you too, actually, before I tell you about mine. Have a lot of people been telling you here lately they've been having a lot of crazy dreams? I'm just curious because of the astrology of stuff. I'm wondering.
I think that is pretty much all the time, because the nature of dream life is it's surreal compared to ordinary life for most people. Yeah. So we do get our share of that at Reddit, and those tend to be the dreams that people remember better and want to share, and also want feedback on them. So, am I seeing more lately? I don't think I'm seeing more.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, because sometimes I get in, like I've been talking a lot about astrology lately, and I've been looking at that, and everybody's like, yeah, I've been having real crazy dreams. I'm like, I wonder if astrology is affecting our dreams too. Well, anyways, so I'm laying on the couch in my grandmother's house, and keep in mind, my grandmother used to have a basement. It's a 3-story house, but the bottom floor was kind of underground, and all our family lives around the same place. So I was there frequently in my childhood. She raised me. We all ate dinner over there, good hillbilly Arkansas stuff, And so I'm laying on the couch down there. And at the time, when you're in a dream, you don't know you're dreaming. You really feel like that stuff's happening. And I look towards the steps, and my dad is walking down the steps, and he's holding my son, and my son's a baby. And my dad looks pissed. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, hell, he had to babysit my son while I was asleep or something. That's no good, And I get up to go get Corbin, and there's a bean, like a beanstalk in the middle of the room. And there's a beanstalk with 2 butterflies. One is just like the regular orange butterfly, and the other one is black, right? It's black, and it's white with a little bit of blue in it, and it attacks me. And it's like, well, it's just a butterfly, no big deal, So I kind of try to shoo it off, but it won't stop. It just keeps coming at me, and it really starts freaking me out. Like, I'm a big dude. I shouldn't be afraid of a butterfly, but I don't want to kill it either. And it just chases me everywhere, and it really gets in my face, and I can feel it flapping and everything. And I woke up, and I was like, that's got to be one of those dreams that don't mean anything, right? Because it was just so crazy. But I think it does. I'm pretty sure it does.
Well, the way that I would start with that is you look for, is there some kind of metaphor at play in this dream? And one of them is sleeping on the job. So look at that aspect of it and ask yourself, around the time you had the dream, is there anything that can compare going on in your life to that idea where there's some responsibility or thing that you need to do? It's obviously important because it's symbolized as your young son. And the dad in you, the responsible side of you or dutiful side of you, the father side of you, is angry with you because it feels like you've been sleeping on the job. You also have an interesting, a beanstalk in the middle of the living room. That's the first thing I thought was Jack and the Beanstalk.
Yeah, right.
This is one of the things you do when you go through a dream is it's called amplification from Carl Jung. He would look for parallels with stories of any kind, and fairy tales and myths and stuff like that. That comes into play as one of the kinds of stories that a dream can draw from to construct a story around. But we don't see any other action with the beanstalk. Now, then you get to the butterflies, and there's 2 of them. And as you're describing the second one and it's attacking you, I'm sitting there thinking, well, there's a comparison in a way between a butterfly and a baby because they're both delicate. So this butterfly, this delicate thing that you think is supposed to be harmless, it attacks you. And that can be a dream's way of saying, this is trying to get your attention, or it's playing out a drama of having a heavy emotional reaction to something that maybe, because you're handling this delicate thing. Let me give you a quick example that might help. There was a girl that came to Reddit with a dream where a butterfly came and landed on her. And she sat there and she just kind of watched the butterfly and felt this sense of that it's this very delicate thing and she needed to be really, really careful with it. Well, this dream followed something that had happened in her life years before that still traumatized her. She was responsible for her sister's young infant son or daughter, her niece or nephew, and she dropped the kid and ended up injuring it, trip to the ER, all that kind of stuff. So she didn't trust herself anymore with delicate things. And the dream, when the butterfly lands on her, it's a way of saying for her that she's on the other side of this now, that she can trust herself again. But of course, it took years to get to that point. So that was why I was thinking the butterfly, it's this delicate thing. And then you've also got your young son in the dream, which is delicate. So if there's something, and then there's the idea of being a father. So I would ask yourself, is there something that you feel like you've slept on the job and it involves the care of your son? This very delicate thing that you're responsible for.
That makes sense now, actually. Because at first, when you have a dream like that, you're thinking, man, this is there's no way this could mean anything because it's just so wild. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. Now,
you take all the pieces of the dream and you translate them from the symbolism into the idea that's behind it. The idea that's behind it is going to parallel something that's going on in you or your life or both. So that's how you do it. And that's why dreams can seem really bizarre and nonsensical to most people, is because they don't know how to decode symbolism. Once you can decode symbolism, then you can see that the dream is taking these symbols and stringing them together and telling a story with it.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, another thing I'm curious about too, Ian, is if that would have happened to you, how would you have reacted to it differently than I am with the experience that you've had doing these things?
Well, again, one of the things about dreams is that they're subjective to your experiences, because while you're alive, everything that we dream is based on waking life influences to a certain degree, because the way our mind works, it takes in our experience, and when we sleep at night, a lot of our dreams are consolidating our waking life experiences in replay, and that's to strengthen your long-term memory. So the hippocampus takes episodic and semantic events and sends it out into the brain, which then processes that experience in a form of a dream. And that information that comes back as the feedback is a combination of a variety of different types of experiences, from episodic, which is taking place in your waking life, and semantic, which is what you believe, the more of the knowledge base and belief base aspects of ourselves. So for myself to have a dream like that, I would, in one respect, I would try to look at the relationship to my life and what that message is relative to me, because everything we dream is going to be in that reflective mirror of yourself based on, this large body of your accumulated experiences. And as to its meaning, what your subconscious mind is trying to present to you, again, this is where JM is more of the expert on the interpretation of symbolism, because dreams aren't always metaphorical. They can be literal as well, right? So depending on what type of information comes back in the replay, it can also be literal, where you wouldn't need to even decode the symbolism, because you'd know right away what the message in the dream was. It would be very literal. So, but that sounds like a very symbolic encoded dream, which means the information is abstracted by various issues in how your mind's processing that experience, right? Because there's a certain level of, with dreaming, cognitive atrophy that I've been studying. I've been doing a lot of research lately for a project that I've been working on, and looking at the neurological benefits and health benefits of dreaming, and understanding how the brain actually works with our dreams, what regions of the brain is being used for dreaming. And it's very interesting. It's these messages that come forward in these symbols, they definitely do have a deep meaning that's relative to you, and that's why it's hard for, it's probably why I won't have that type of an experience. So I probably won't have a dream like that to even look at and go, what does that mean to me? Because its message is so unique and encoded for you. You're the one that's going to then, come to whatever kind of understanding that message is.
So,
and I think JM presented some really good information in what that could represent.
Well, one thing,
and Ian, I was thinking you should turn Lucid and turn the butterfly into something like a dragon, and you get on top of it and you ride it, because you can control your dreams.
I've done that before.
If it's something that is, scary, you can become conscious of the fact you're dreaming, and then
change it.
Turn it into something that's adventurous, or change it into something that's more pleasant.
Absolutely.
Well, one thing that I'm concerned about is after reading Dispenza's book, I understand that when we have a thought or a focus on something, I'm really becoming to understand this. We have a thought or a focus on something, and then it, we have an emotion with it. Now, I had an emotion with this. At first, it was like, what the hell is this? Like, it's annoying, just flapping in my face. Then the next was frustration, then anger, then fear, right? And now if I'm having a thought about stuff in my dreams and I'm having emotion with it, and I wake up with that emotion, then am I doing what Dispenza's talking about? Am I like, I know that's kind of off subject of dreams, but am I broadcasting a signal to where I could be creating a reality in my life based on that? That's what I'm worried about, the cause and effect of it as well, right?
The butterfly effect.
Exactly. Yeah. Because according to what he talks about in their research, we're constantly manifesting our reality regardless. Now, if we're dreaming and we know we don't know we're not in this reality most of the time, unless we're lucid. So if you have an emotion and you're out of control of it, I mean, you're just the effect of the dream, then that can perpetuate something more in your reality. And I think I'm just a little concerned about it. That's all.
Well, I think that's
a lot
where
of our
dream work
emotions
comes
sorry,
in.
Jim, I'll let you go.
Well, let me
just a quick thought for you, Joe. Is you know, when you have a dream that has made you concerned about something, like in your case, you know, being this delicate thing that's in your house, and then you're having a battle with it, you know, you would take that and go, okay, let me store that away in my mind for this coming day, couple days, maybe a couple weeks.
Yeah.
As Ian knows, dreams can sometimes look ahead into the future, and you respond to the dream and you go, okay, well, what can I do to respond to something like this? And the way that I would react to it is I go, I'm going to be extra careful right now, especially when I'm handling delicate things. It could be handling a knife in my kitchen. It could be, being around young children or something, or even animals or something. And that way you're responding to the dream, and you're not allowing these sort of subconscious thoughts and feelings and things that have been, it became conscious for you in the dream. And then after you woke up and you became concerned about it. If you're concerned about it, then respond to it and do it within the dream. In the context of it, I mean, like the dream is telling you to be careful of something. So start with that basic message. And then you can also go back and imagine yourself in the dream and go, well, how could I react in a better way? So that if I am manifesting something bad, I can take that same energy, go back into the context of the dream, and then change it to a better outcome. And now you are getting into Dispenza's and others' way of saying that we can affect reality with our minds and our emotions and our reactions. And you're doing it, but you're countering the negative possibilities that you saw coming forward from the dream by turning around and making it positive. And now that's what you're manifesting and creating for yourself.
Yeah, I don't want it to, okay, I see what you're saying, because we don't always become lucid, right? And Ian, you're probably really good, both of you are probably really good at becoming lucid. And I feel like I don't want to broadcast a signal that creates unnecessary drama. But if I can't become lucid, then I kind of don't have a choice. I mean, we've all, I think, woke up from a dream feeling a certain way. Either a lot of times, actually, you know what? It's been a relief that the thing didn't actually happen. And you know what I'm talking about, right? When you have the really bad ones, like somebody died or something happened that you just don't want to happen. And you wake up and you're like, oh, Jesus, thank God, that was a dream. But it's so real, it's hard to snap into lucidity. Ian, I mean, if you don't go into a dream, Ian, with the intention to become lucid, then is that like you're setting yourself up for failure to begin with, or do you just go ahead?
Dreaming is a skill, like any skill that we learn. It's actually a language skill, because we're dealing with the way that our mind thinks in this higher functioning language. And because this is not any of our faults, we've never as a culture trained ourselves to be conscious during sleep, because largely dreams have been considered an uninteresting aspect of our experience, even though we have 4 to 6 dreams each night, and anything that has a brain and sleeps, like mammals, they all dream, and some birds dream. Dreaming is something that's very natural as part of how our mind works through experiences, and also emotions. Like the emotions happen in our amygdala, which is the emotional part of our brain that will release information, and that's to also sometimes release fears and release stored thought patterns, that your subconscious mind is working through these anxieties, these concerns, these stresses, and they manifest as a interface as your dream for you to sort that out, to work out, like Jim says, the negative aspects, so you can reorientate yourself in that experience towards something more positive, right? So the conscious aspect of it, though, is really a skill. One of the things is you train for dreaming to become conscious by a skill, just like going to the gym. And most people are in a state of what I would call cognitive atrophy, where they haven't developed that language and never really working with that language of dreaming. They're not building up the necessary neural pathways and neurons. And there's been an fMRI study that compared lucid dreamers' brains to non-lucid dreamers. And it's completely wired different. There's a lot more neural development in the prefrontal cortex versus a person that doesn't have it. So there's some really great scientific evidence that supports that lucid dreaming is probably something we should have all really dove into as a culture, because of the neurological health benefits, as well as the experiences that they provide us as being something that adds time and adds consciousness and adds self-reflection in a way that we don't get while we're locked in here in our waking life. So it is a skill.
And Joe, I'm sitting here thinking that the best thing that we could probably do to raise the collective level of the entire world would be to teach everyone from a very young age how to live their dream life in a way that's more conscious and lucid. Because you very quickly see how your lucid dream life connects with living a lucid waking life. So it could be one of the best skills that we could teach people to cure so many of the ills of the world, or at least do as much as we could to address the human condition. It's the one thing that we could do that would probably have the most benefit and power behind it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ian, for bringing that up.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I think that a lot of, I've been called a control freak, but I don't like to control things or people, but I do like to be in control of myself, right? And I get kind of worried when I'm not, if I get too out of, like if my mood goes south or something, or if things are getting out of hand and it's in my mind or even in my dream state. And then after that, I just became aware that I don't really like being emotionally out of control in a dream state, because I could be broadcasting something I don't want in my life, if that makes any sense.
I think of the dream state as being a safe place to practice. It's kind of a virtual reality. Yeah. And it's actually allowing you to vent and process emotions that, if they got stuffed up inside of you, could come out the next day when you're awake and conscious in ways that would be very shadowy. So I think the dream is, one, making you aware that you really feel this way. And two, it is giving you a safe space to work through all of this. I tell people that their dream place is a safe place. And Carl Jung said that dreams can only be for our benefit. And that's their number one priority. So it's two reasons to never fear what's going on in your dreams or what they could manifest for you in a way that the arrow is going the other direction. The arrow is going towards cohesion, unity, harmony, it's venting emotions, dealing with things, processing them, learning, growing. It's not going to be something because you experienced it in a dream is going to be setting you up in your waking life to have some kind of really shadowy negative thing happen to you.
That makes sense. Okay. So that's kind of what I was trying to figure out, because I was so fascinated with his book, and I'm thinking, okay, well, this makes a lot of sense. I was talking to a listener or two that was reading the book at the same time, and we were both realizing how much sense it made, but I didn't think about that. I didn't think about, well, your dreams are actually pretty wild sometimes, and you do have emotions there. Does that affect your reality? And if it's a safe place, then that's a good thing, right? Because
it is.
Okay. All right. So then we don't have to worry about that. All we got to do is just figure out what it means, and then we're good, huh?
One thing to consider with dreams is that they're... Oh, sorry, Jim. I was just for the safety, and I just wanted to share that when you're sleeping, remember every event that's taking place in the dream is just a form of information processing in your brain that's constructing that dream environment, and it's not physical. So there's no consequences. And so, but the thing is, people, when they're not trained in dreaming, respond to the drama of a dream as if real for the time they're there, because dream realism is unequivocally can be as real as your waking life. So we get caught up in the drama of the dream as it's invoking our emotions, our fears, and making us work through those things if we have that house cleaning that needs to be done. So, the real world has the consequences. Here, you walk out and get hit by a bus. That consequence we should be concerned about. That's where we have fear. And that's what fear is for. It's for our survival drive here while we're awake. But we bring that into our dream state. It actually can trigger the same fear response in our body while we're sleeping, so that it can elevate our adrenaline, our cortisol, and we can start to sweat. We can start to have a higher heartbeat, and we can actually have the same replay of that fear response in our dream connecting to our body while we're sleeping. It's not a bad thing, but it's our body's way of saying, look, you need to resolve this fear. You need to overcome this fear. You can't live in this fear. So it's a safe environment to run simulations that are beneficial to you in the bigger picture. So they're that's one way of looking at it. And if you get hit by a bus in a dream, you'll either A, wake up, B, the bus can pass through you, C, knock you into another dream. In the end, the consequences there don't exist.
Okay. That's fantastic. Good. And then were you wanting to say something about that too, JM?
We covered it. No, we covered it, Joe.
You got it? All right, cool. So here's what I think we're going to talk about after the break here. I want to figure out, and this is important, I think, especially in this day and age now, we need to see how we can do things practically with this, dream interpretations, premonitions. What can we do? Active imagination. Let's start using this as a tool. All right, we'll be right back with J.M. DeBord and Ian Wilson. Stay with us.
This is Corbin, son of the one and only Joe Roop, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
This is Barbara Charlton from Metaphorical Archaeology. If you've ever had a traumatic paranormal experience, the effects of it may stay with you for years. Who do you talk to? You can't go to conventional help. What we do is we use emotional freedom techniques or tapping to actually neutralize the effects of that event. Maybe when you tell the story now, your heart races and your palms get sweaty. You don't even want to think about it because you don't know how to neutralize that. That's what EFT tapping does. It neutralizes those emotions. The circuit that was recorded on is gone. The energy flows freely and you're free of it. And that's what emotional freedom is all about. We offer this as a pro bono service, but this is something that I offer because no one, it seems, is helping people with these experiences. If you'd like to reach me, it's really easy. My cell phone is 214-995-3754. Please leave a message. I will get back to you as quickly as possible. Or you can email me, barb.eft@gmail.com. And EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. Reach out to me. It's confidential. This works. You won't believe the results.
Stress is at an all-time high, and all of us could use a little bit of stress relief. That's why I want to talk to you about Soothe. Now, this is an app you can download on your phone. They have a massage therapist that arrives with a massage table, sheets, lotion, oils, and music, and you're in charge. You can book in seconds and schedule at 8 a.m. to midnight massage 7 days a week, anytime it's available. There's a 60-minute arrival period. A vetted background-checked massage therapist will come to you in as little as an hour. All of the therapists are vetted by industry veterans that ensure a compassionate, healing touch. So maybe you're a little stressed and you need to feel spoiled. Well, there's no better way to do that than relax at your own home and not have to deal with the outside world with Soothe. Right now, you can get $10 off your first massage by putting in the code word FRINGE10 at checkout. That's www.soothe.com, or download the Soothe app and put in the code word FRINGE10.
I think by now we can get the information.
I love magic, and on Lighting the Void, each and every week, you will get to hear shows about magic, mysticism, and many other subjects that stretch your mind and imagination. So when I got my mind on the magic and the magic on my mind, I listened to Lighting the Void on the Fringe FM. It's magic.
May the gods look with favor upon you.
You're wondering what we're going to do to you, aren't you?
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprem. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprem increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprem is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now to angioprem.com. That's ANGIOPRIM.com. Or to speak with a trained consultant. Give Angioprem a call at 954-882-7221. That's 954-882-7221.
All right, everyone, this is Justin from the UK. Excuse the chitty. If you're into the Fringe and you want to hear the brass tacks, my old china plate, Joe Roop and his guests on Lighting the Void will open your mince pies. You need to shut your north and south and use your 10-speed gears and listen to them bubble. You could hear a Barry Crocker, no Brussels, but he ain't no holy friar. Anyway, you be the Barnaby Rudge and take a butcher's.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. Listen, tonight is a pretty special night for us. I need all of your prayers, actually, and all of your good vibes towards the Fringe FM right now, because we are changing things. We're actually like going through a big phase, and we need a lot of stuff to work in our favor. So it's one of those, it's kind of one of those moments where the kicker's about to kick the field goal, and if it goes to the uprights, then we win. So everybody cross your fingers and send all your good vibes with us. And tonight we're with Ian Wilson and J.M. DeBord. We're discussing your dream state, lucid dreaming, premonitions, how we can use these tools in our life to better our lives. And the kinds of things that you can do with your dreams is pretty immaculate, actually. And what I wanted to ask, and I guess I probably should start with Ian on this one. So when we all know about premonitions, right? Dreams that we have that kind of show us something that's going to happen in our future. This is where I have an issue with premonitions, and I don't know if there's really an answer for this other than journaling, but I don't realize that it was a premonition until after the fact. Wouldn't it be nice to know that it was a premonition so we could kind of say, hey, this is about to happen? Is there a way to... And yeah, I'll start with Ian on this. Is there a way that we can see that in the dream?
That's a challenge, again, because we dream in a spectrum, and which means there's a percentage of our dream experiences that are in replay based on our waking life. And then there's that smaller percentage that can come through, which will connect to this replay in the future, where somehow, whatever the mechanics are, our dreams are able to replay that future event in the same way it's replaying our current events. And the reason why it's hard to really determine it is largely because we have so much information that we're processing in our life, and our dreams present a huge spectrum of information that it's also processing. So it's hard to pinpoint what's a dream, what's a precognitive dream, largely because they're very similar. You can have dreams that are not going to be precognitive in nature, but they could also be considered maybe a probability of a future event that's being looked at by yourself, and the actual event being the precognitive event when it actually occurs as part of this creative process that takes place from the dream state.
Well, okay. All right, cool. Yeah, so, damn, and I really wish there was a way. What do you think, JM?
We just had an example of this. A guy showed from 2 weeks before the helicopter crash where Kobe Bryant died. He had a dream that there was a helicopter crash outside of a venue going up the side of a foggy mountain. And he said that, that was 2 weeks before it happened. And he woke up and he realized that he dreamed about it. And he said that the experience of the dream was different than ordinary dreams because it looked like memory to him, like it was replaying a memory, like it was something that had maybe like already happened. So there was a felt sense for him in the dream that it was more than a dream, that there was something more at play, like he was watching a movie play out. He was watching, it's even more than just a movie. He's actually watching, like when you're recalling a memory, you see it in your mind, something that you experienced very vividly in your waking life, and recent. So your memory is very strong of it. Think of it. How does that play out in your mind? He said that the dream was like that. And so that could be a thing to look for with precognitive dreams. Not only are they more than ordinary, they have this strong felt sense to them, but there's also that aspect of that it's like remembering something that happened and it's very vivid in your mind, and it happened, maybe it happened recently, but just that it's very vivid in your mind and it's easy to recall in detail. And that's the way that the dream presents the precognition to you.
So he kind of, it's almost like a feeling you tap into. Look, but here's the thing though. This is why I'm asking you this. The premonitions that I've had were all predictions of something that I really wish that I could have, could have seen coming, because they were devastating things in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So
I can touch a little bit on that for you if you want.
Yeah, please.
So you brought replay, and again, we've been talking about how dreams replay episodic and semantic and spatial memory. So there's been a study done on rats that show in the hippocampus we have place cells, and what will happen is a rat, when it's in a familiar environment, the same place cells will fire. So of course, now when the rat is sleeping and dreams that it's in that same environment, they get the same pattern in the hippocampus. Right? Now, information, when we take in information, our brain is a very sophisticated instrument. It uses infrared bioluminescent photons at the very smallest part of the brain in the neuron itself, in the microtubules, in the dendrils, at the alpha-beta tubulin. And I know it sounds a little bit sciencey, but what it is just two pairs of atoms that get stimulated, active as on and off by light, effectively. And then that cell will then fire off an electrical signal to pass that information on and relay to the next cell, and that whole event happens really fast, right? And all the cells know how to process that information to give a replay of that experience. So maybe because of quantum mechanics and we see spooky action from a distance, we're distributed in past, present, future, and all the probabilities. So when something has a strong emotional charge from a future event, it's strong enough to break through, because now it's activating other aspects of your brain. Your amygdala is responding to it. It's like you're in a situation and you're getting now a physiological response. And so the memory replays is stronger encoded in your mind when you wake up. And now when you wake up, you go, wow, that was a weird dream, right? And then later it happens and you're like, oh no, I dreamt about that. How terrible. But again, we're looking at the way you were already in that future event and your brain was processing the replay from the future in the dream.
Yeah, I can give you guys a real quick example that I wish I would have known. Okay, so, and it's personal, but it's okay. And it was a long time ago. I had a dream that my ex-wife was in a swimming pool, right? And I walk around the backyard and she's in a swimming pool. And, when you're in a dream, you don't know that you're in a dream. And she's looking at me like, so that she wants to hug me. Now, this was years ago, but I still have it in my journal. And I was like, okay, so I get in the pool and then we both kind of take our clothes off and then we hug each other, right? Well, I'm thinking this is great, but this is back when, way back, it was like after the divorce, when my family, all that stuff got torn apart, like that happens to people, right? Anyways, and then I get this sense of dread and I kind of back up and I look at her face and she's got this blank face, right? Like she doesn't care about hugging me or anything at all. So I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And I hear this ruffling like noise out of the left and I see these figures. I think I might have talked to one of y'all about this actually, but I see these figures coming out of the trees and the bushes and they look like dogs and maybe humans, but they're half alive. They're like zombie looking like, and they're coming towards us in the pool. And I'm like, hey, get out of the pool. I'm trying to tell her to get out of the pool and she's not moving. And so I look to the right and the house that's next to the pool, the same thing, zombies, weird looking creatures. They're both coming on each side of us, but I know that these are different ones and these kind of belong to me, right? They belong to me for some reason. Mm-hmm. And, so I bolt out of the pool and I'm trying to put my shorts on and I don't know why it even matters, but my shorts don't fit and my wallet falls out and my wallet falls out of the back of my pocket and it rolls down this long hill. It's almost like a mountain. And I'm like looking at traffic down there at the bottom of the mountain, watching my money roll down the hill. And I wake up. Now I journaled that and didn't realize, I was like, what was that? Later in my life, my ex contacted me for reasons that she had issues with substance, and I've had issues with that substance before, like opiates. I've been addicted to them, trying to get off of them. A lot of people have. I mean, it's huge. in the United States right now. And so she contacted me, and said, I didn't even know this was going to happen. And it does. It happens that way to people when they have surgeries and stuff. So I said, I'll help you. I understand what's going on, And I went to help her, and, it played out that way. The whole, like, I need your help. I really, acting like they care, but they're really just kind of, they don't, And the zombies were the energies of that stuff. One of them was mine. You see what I mean? Like, one of them was mine that I had, and the other ones were hers. Yeah. And I was like, what? I went back in my journal and I looked at it, and I was like, that's what I did. So what's the water? Well, I study the occult a lot. So water is anytime in my dreams, anytime I get in the water, it represents emotion every single time.
Yeah.
And so I can pick that stuff apart, but if I could just see what's coming down the road, like if I could just use the premonition so I could avoid the situation, that would be good, But
wow. And that would take a hell of a dream interpreter to be able to see from a dream like that there was something warning you very directly about things that were going to play out in the future. I mean, there is, if you can understand the sort of living dead creatures and seeing your wife and the ex-wife in the pool, and if you could,
I know exactly what it was.
Understand what the dream is really saying ahead of time, and then maybe walking into that situation, you would know that there was something really dangerous there for you. But it would take a really deep, fine discernment to be able to tell. How long was it between the dream and the event?
It was 2.5 weeks. And here's the thing, when your ex, if any of you guys has an ex-wife or ex-boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, when they contact you, 9 times out of 10, it's way out of the blue, right? You're living a different life at the time, so that's pretty much what happened. And then 2 weeks later, this is going on. And I mean, I care about everybody that I've ever dated in my life. I care about my friends. And when they're in a place like that, that's a dark place to be, and I've been there before. I felt kind of obligated to help and realized that it's almost like, hey, I've had these demons before too, or zombies or negative energy, right? I know what you're going through, but if you don't get out of this pool, it's going to get you. And I dumped a lot of money in the situation and really tried to help.
I was going to say the wallet, the shorts don't fit. You lose your wallet, it rolls down the hill.
That's right.
That was kind of showing you what was coming. In Ian, maybe you can talk more about this. There is it's almost like what the dream is doing is, think of the dream as being like it's a camera showing you something that's going to or did happen. And the camera can move through time in a way that the normal conscious mind can't. The dream is going ahead in time, but then replaying something in a way that it's almost like saying it already happened. It's not just warning you that you're going to lose money. It's showing your wallet rolling down a hill towards a busy road.
That's
it's saying you lost the money. You're seeing all this almost like it's in the past tense, like it's already happened. So it doesn't mean that at the time, if you couldn't have figured out the dream, there might have been a way of avoiding that outcome, but it would have really required you to have a lot of experience with your dreams and to have a felt sense that there was this danger ahead, so that when the phone rang and it was your ex, I mean, it was 2.5 weeks later, right?
Yeah, it was.
I would wonder, what was, for me, the first thing that would come into my mind would be that dream. If I had, an ex from years ago who,
that's why I knew about it.
And 2.5 weeks later, they got in touch, Yeah. So you would go, that would be the first thing I would think is, wait a minute, I had a really disturbing dream with this person. Let me be really careful about the way that I'm going to interact with them as this unfolds, this unexpected contact with them, because the dream really did seem to be saying something to you that was telling you to be careful.
Yeah, because you kind of played on. I mean, we talked about it, and we're all good now. I've got a really good relationship with Corbin's mother. She's a good person now. She took care of all that, and it's like but back then, when you get in those situations, and any of you that are addicted to opiates or anything, actually, I know some of you are based on the statistics. You need to reach out for help, no matter how embarrassed you are, no matter how embarrassing it is. You need to talk to somebody and get some help, because there's a lot of shame there. And that was the thing. Like, she had to pretty much play on my past emotions, which is the pool of water, because she thought that's what she had to do to get help, because nobody else would help her, but somebody out there will help you, I promise you. And it's a bad deal.
So you
right
had
now.
to go through that with her.
Yeah. And I told her
in order to help her, you had to go through it with her. Yep.
That's right. I told her, I said, look, I don't judge you. I've been here before. We're not bad people, but the medical system doesn't know, man. Like they do now. They're doing stuff about it now after the epidemic of opiate addiction, but they got really crazy with pain pills and stuff for a while. And now there's still a ton of people that are hooked on it right now, and you'll never know. They won't talk about it, but they're going through a life that's hell, And, but anyways, I'll do a show on that sometime, but what I'm trying to say is maybe it's the journal, like you're saying, JM, or Ian, that if we journal stuff, we really start recognizing our symbolism. The next time, let's say I have a dream and there's a big pool of water or something, I know I'm probably about to come up to an emotional event in my life. Maybe.
Journaling is very important. And the reason for that is because not only are you going to capture some of that information that can be now veridical evidence of your future dreams, because you'll have a reference point, maybe time-stamped in your journal, or if it's online. But again, as a skill, if you're developing your ability to dream, you need to be able to, when you wake up, recall information to stimulate again neural pathways in your mind, to bring them out of cognitive atrophy so that you can remember easier and better. So your brain starts to then rewire itself to accommodate the interest that you're now placing on your dreams. So over time, you'll find you remember more and more and more. So it also has that health benefit of being able to remember your dreams more efficiently down the road, because now you're working that brain muscle out, right? And you're going to get better and better at remembering it. So very important if you want to get serious about dreaming to write them down.
I want to talk about the hypnagogic state with you guys too, because that's a pretty important place, but it seems like when we get to that place, it's so fast that we transition from consciousness to another state so quick. But I've been understanding a lot about the hypnagogic state lately, that's the one place where you can actually manifest stuff, or you can actually take control of things, but it's so slippery. And I was reading a book actually by an occultist who was into sigils and chaos magic and stuff, but he would hold something in his hand as he fell asleep. And so something very important that he would break if he dropped. But I didn't want to do that, but I would hold like a ball in my hand and I could feel it slipping out of my hand. When you wake up and you feel something slipping, and he was going in and out of hypnagogia and realizing that at that state, this is where we kind of make the decision. Are we going to slip away, or are we going to kind of become lucid? And then for people like me that like to do astral travel or out of body stuff, I still find it difficult to take control of my lucidity at that point, to not slip away, if that makes sense. Do either one of you want to comment on that? Very common.
Yeah. Again, when you're moving from a waking state into the dream state, as you know, your mind is changing in terms of how it's going to go into kind of sleep mode, right? But by you trying to participate now in that process, you're going to be activating more of your mind to accommodate that information processing. And what happens, though, is you're kind of competing against the brain in its natural habit of falling asleep, orientating yourself in that shift, working with what I consider to be bad habits. And again, it's an atrophic skills. So, the more you practice at maintaining that focus on moving through the hypnagogic shift, the more successful you're going to be at it. But in the beginning, like any skill, like sitting down at the piano, you don't sit down once and play Beethoven, right? You're going to make some noise on that piano. So as you're practicing and going through repeat processes of engaging hypnagogia, over time, you're going to naturally slip through that interference. And all that is just, again, your mind's going to start to rewire itself to accommodate you to become conscious, and you can then slip right through that whole state and be fully lucid in your dream state. But that's, again, an issue of cognitive atrophy at play, causing the changes, the way your thoughts will start to change and think in abstract thoughts and get distracted, and you get caught up as the dream drama starts to emerge. You start to emerge and interface with that data, and it draws away your focus, right? So, it's more an issue on how you train your ability to focus your intent through that shift. And it's not always easy to do when you first go to sleep. because during our sleep cycle, we need to go through a series of different REM states as our brain's doing things like, it's releasing growth hormones, it's doing all sorts of repair on the body. That's why a lot of lucid dreaming practitioners like to do a wake back to bed method, where they'll let their body have its rest, do whatever non-lucid dreaming in that first sleep cycle, and then apply the lucid dreaming in the second sleep cycle, because now the body falls asleep a lot quicker, the mind doesn't need as much rest, and you'll find it much easier to become lucid. And it's been studied by the Lucidity Institute that it increases your chance of being lucid by up to 10 times if you do the wake back to bed method. So that's one of the ones that a lot of the really experienced lucid dreamers jump on as a form of accommodating their sleeping pattern for that little brief interruption. So 4 to 6 hours, and then the last 2 hours for lucid dreaming in if you have your 8-hour sleep cycle and have the time to orientate for that. You can still do it when you're falling asleep at night when you first go to sleep, but the challenge level is going to be a little bit higher for a beginner.
Now, JM, when you guys...
Joe?
Yeah, go ahead.
Ask Ian about the process of going from into sleep and how he has been able to remain awake and what he witnessed, because he posted something at Reddit. It was one of the first things I read from him, and he compared it to the rendering of computer graphics.
Really?
That what he witnessed in his own mind, it began as like a simple grid, and then the grid turned from those simple shapes into more complex ones, and then it turned three-dimensional, and then it added texture and color, and then became a fully rendered dream environment in simulated virtual reality environment. And he was able to stay awake through the whole thing to be able to see the process from beginning to end. And he posted these comparisons with the way that computers render graphics, because it starts off with a simple grid and then goes through that same process. And I thought it was fascinating. I'm going, wow, Ian discovered that the way the dreaming mind works as it's cranking up and it's starting to produce imagery is much like the way that our computers render graphics. Three-dimensional graphics.
So when did you post this, Ian? How long ago was this?
Oh, my, that must have been many, many years ago, Jim.
But
yeah, that was the 2012-ish.
I'll look it up. It's on the sidebar at Reddit Dreams, and I'll look it up while we're talking here, because that was one of the ones I wanted to save.
Yeah, tell me about that, Ian. Like, seriously, what was the first thing that you noticed?
I've always observed that since childhood. So when we go to sleep and there's a shift, right? So what happens is we go from interfacing in our waking life to now going through like changing an FM band to the next station, which is the dream focus state. But there's noise in between that, and that noise comes through in a build-up process, as we're talking about, where you're looking at the blank canvas of your mind with your eyes closed, and your thoughts start to emerge as the paint. And those thoughts are your episodic and semantic memories, again, semantic being what you're thinking, and they start to create kind of a shift where a dimness of how you think visually will start to emerge as the dream imagery. And of course, there's audible forms and there's tactile forms that start to now emerge into this construct, is what I call it. But that hypnagogic state can build up from like little, flashes of light, or if you're playing a video game, you'll see video game characters sort of playing around and dancing around in your mind as you're falling asleep. But there's also this really intense fractal geometry that can take place, almost like a Mandelbrot set. And I've always observed it since I was a child. And for me, it's like a swirling triangular mesh. So they're like, a triangle with a dark black center that will be moving in a dynamic fluid that can be kind of two-dimensional in the beginning, and then they take on a three-dimensional property that starts to sort of create the spatial interface for the dream to simulate the space. And then the very last second, all the texture seems to pop on top of it, and the next thing I know, I'm now interfacing with that virtual reality that our minds are capable of creating in the form of a dream.
Wow.
So the process I've observed all throughout my life, many, 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 many times.
Yeah, so it's like that's like rendering. It's the same thing.
That's right.
I wonder why we don't see that though. Did you just slow it down?
Yeah, it's again an issue of when you're actually now maintaining proper focus and staying conscious through that shift. It's just a natural way that things will now start to emerge into the dream state as your body falls asleep. Back in my 1998 book, A Course on Consciousness, I called it inversion of the senses. You're right now, your senses are exposed to the external world, the objective information that's there, and they start to invert in a way, metaphorically, into the dream state. So your sense of vision now looks inward, and your sense of hearing looks inward to start to interface with the dream content, because that's what dreaming is. It's a first-person, three-dimensional replay of experience and thought, shaping that construct, that, the canvas of the mind, right? And it's entirely virtual. There's no denying that information processing in the brain is producing the dream content that we're seeing when we're in that focus state.
Wow, that's so cool. We got to take our break at the top of the hour here. Listen, I want you guys, if you can, to call in. It's all right. I want to have some of you possibly talk to JM or Ian here. If you've had a weird dream or something, we could try to pick it apart, because you got two of the best people here on the planet when it comes to dreams and lucid dreams to help you along this journey. We'll be right back. More Lighting the Void. Stay with us.
This is Crow 777, and you are listening to The Fringe FM.
Hey, this is No Way Jose, a Northern California Piscean stuck in the Arizona desert. I'm a void walker, and I got the shoes to prove it. So what do I do when my soul yearns to delve deep into the realm of the unknown? I aim my satellite straight into the night sky and catch a smooth ride on the KTLK-DB radio waves. I tune into Lighting the Void with Joe Root on The Fringe FM.
Joe, Lighting the Void is the best show on the planet. This is Barney, your friend from Facebook. Thank you and all the crew for all you do. Namaste, my friend.
This is Macon from the foothills of North Carolina, and I am a void walker.
G'day, void walkers. This is Lily from down under Australia. The world may be small, the enigma is greater. So let your curiosity take you for a journey with Joe Root.
Hey, this is V, coming in from Central Maryland, and I am a void walker.
This is Kevin Doherty, a beginner void walker. I'm from Vancouver, BC. I know a little about a lot, and as Leonard Skinner said, I guess the rest. I learned a lot from Mr. Root in the show, and I heard it from the beginning. I knew right then he was going to be a new Art Bell. Thanks for all your shows, and keep it up.
Hey, this is Derek from Mass, aka the Night Stalker, and I'm a void walker.
This is Mark from Chicago, and I walk the void to ascertain what is consciousness.
My name is Jared Johnson, and I'm from Humboldt County, California. I do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family of explorers of consciousness. I'm a void walker. Thanks, Joe Root.
I'm Ryan Gable, and I want to remind you to keep your radio, phone, tablet, or computer tuned to The Fringe FM, and visit the website thefringe.fm to listen to the entire lineup of shows. You can also catch my broadcast, The Secret Teachings, Monday through Friday, beginning at 12 a.m. midnight U.S. Pacific Time, right here on The Fringe FM.
Alex X. Hi, I'm Alex Exum, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
This is Reverend John M. Polk. Please visit me at johnpolkmedia.com and visit my show, Quantum Hologram Matrix, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, every Tuesday on thefringe.fm.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners, did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Hey,
is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
Hola, Fringe listeners. This is Dave Cruz of Beyond the Strange, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
To call Joe, pick up the phone, dial 1-800-588-0335, toll free from the United States or Canada. You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void Radio. We're here with Ian Wilson and JM DeBord. If you want to call in, we have some of the best, actually, in my opinion, two of the best dream explorers and dream interpreters on the planet right now. So you can call in at 1-800-588-0335 and listen to these guys pick apart your dreams or tell you what you need to do or what you might be getting. What does your dream telling you? Is it telling you? Is it a premonition, or is it something inside you deeper that you need to find out? So you can call in there or at 501-424-5130. So I was just talking to you guys about the break during the break that I think that mystics and occultists have known this stuff since the beginning of time. When you were discussing your situation, Ian, about dreaming and noticing this code, you said you noticed that it looked like it was a computer generated or rendered, I guess, graphic. I don't want to even call it a graphic. Right. Environment. That's the better word for it. And
it's like the holodeck of the mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know why nobody else can see that, but I mean, 32 years of experience of dream exploration, you would think that's probably why you can see those things. But we were discussing this during the break, and there is an actual code, JM, that you were talking about, binary code, that it's in quantum physics, and it has to do with error correcting. It's the same code that's in computers for error correcting code. So anytime you have a bit of information, that's 8 ones or zeros, right? And that's called a bit. And outside of that code, because you have a series of bits for the code or the data, but outside of that, there's another code for any types of errors or something that corrects it. And that's the code, I believe, that they found in the nature of reality based on their equations. I could be wrong, though.
Professor James Gates, he's noted that the supersymmetric equations of string theory contain some binary codes built in. These are the same codes sometimes used in computing for error correcting.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's coming off a Stack Exchange.
Wow.
Let's get into the neurological relationship to binary information processing if we're going to dive deep. So we did talk about alpha, beta, tubulin, which are binary pairs, right? So your neuron already is using binary information, active and inactive is how it works. So it's a form of, in that case, atomic or carbon atom paired automata for information processing. And then the cellular level, I can't remember because I'm not on my computer, so I can't get the reference, but I think it was the University of Berkeley was trying to say, well, the human brain doesn't work like a computer, but then they found in the prefrontal cortex that entire cells can become active and inactive, forming a binary pattern of those states, and the basal ganglia acts as a switch. So we don't just have binary information processing at the cellular level. We actually have it, in the brain level. We have it at the most fundamental quantum state of the brain. And Stuart Hammerhoff, his OR model touches on that. It's been debated because everyone debates these things. But I think he's right on the money for how the brain is functioning like a quantum supercomputer. And the moment we get into that quantum state, we start getting into the spooky action from a distance, which ties us into precognition, that, information from the future can flow to the past. And we see that now with quantum experiments, such as retrocausation or retrocausality, where with weak measurements in these experiments, where they can fire a laser through a series of mirrors, but they can register the laser firing in the past before they actually conduct the experiment. So there's a weak measurement.
Wow,
so we do know that the arrow of time with information flows probably in all directions. But when it comes to actual, the macro universe, it gets caught into all of the constraints of the final rendered product of our waking world. So our waking world really is an information system. It isn't physical as much as we like to think it is. It's very much more linked to, the same information that's producing that precognitive dream is coming back in replay in your waking life, right? Because the dream is that, thought paradox. What came first, the chicken or the egg? In this thought paradox, we ask, what came first, the dream or reality? Well, with precognition, the dream came first.
That is a trip, man. I was also talking about, we discuss how the occultists or magicians or mystics have known about this kind of thing, and I know that they're going to name it something eventually. But back in the day, the Kabbalists, when they were doing their meditations, when they made that glyph of the tree of life, which I call, the occult flux capacitor, basically, but that's what it is. It's the manifesting tree of life. They found it, like these stages of levels of manifesting reality and consciousness. They call them Sephiroth. In the past, they called something else. But anyways, the pillars on the tree, which you see in Freemasonry and all these other places that represent Jachin and Boaz, they have an energetic representation, too, of positive and negative, but also of gender, which is a male and female, or what they call force and form. So anytime you see a phallic symbol, that's force. And anytime you see a circle, like a magician circle or whatever, that's form, male, female, 1, 0. It fractals, right? As above, so below. I think what we're realizing, and anytime we create something on this planet, it's something that's already existed. Like the internet or computers or the binary code. Let's just talk about that. When we figured that out as a society, we were just, in my opinion, figuring something out that was already something that was in the universe on a smaller or fractal level, right? Because look what it did. It brought us all together. Now we have this big machine called the internet where we can talk to each other. And now we're just trying to find ways to come together. Now they're talking about creating, or they already have Neuralink. Now I'm wondering how that's going to affect our dreams, or I'm not so excited about that. Do you guys have any opinions on that?
I think they are trying to figure out a way of totally creating our reality mechanically and technologically, and that will eventually extend into our dream lives. We're going to have this mass spreading of this technology. The big names are behind this, Elon Musk and others who are doing these brain interfaces. And I think that if they try to mess with the dream reality, if they try to say program dreams technologically, that they're going to be taking over a process that has evolved through nature and our species for millions of years at least, if not longer, and that they are that it's going to end up having a very bad side effects. I've seen people do this with when they mess with their sleep lives and their dream lives in a way that aren't healthy. They end up breaking down psychologically. The Uberman sleep schedule was one. I had someone come to Reddit who say they experimented with this, where you sleep for 20 minutes at a time on a 24-hour schedule, where that's as long as you're allowing yourself to sleep. So you'll sleep for 20 minutes, and let's say that you're then awake for an hour. It's a way of like squeezing out more awake time. But people who've tried it after a short time, let's just say a couple of weeks, said that they had some really bizarre experiences where the dreaming mind starts taking over their waking consciousness because their need for deep, restful sleep has become so great that it will override their consciousness. And they start dreaming while they are awake, which is the definition of schizophrenia, if in one sense, because schizophrenics, they've shown that the REM stages, the REM part of their brain that's producing vivid dream imagery will come on while they're awake, and they're unable to distinguish their inner and outer reality. So if we do hook people up to this technology and start to try to mess with the dream world and the sleep life, then I think it could have some really bad repercussions.
Your thoughts, Ian? You agree?
The thing is, when I'm teaching dreaming, I go into what I call following our natural process, not to interrupt that natural process, because it's been evolved for a long time. So you want to work with your natural sleep cycles and not try to interfere with them too much. And that's why it doesn't hurt to do the lucid dreaming in the second sleep cycle for the wake back to bed method, because you're not going to interrupt the natural REM processes that your body is using to facilitate all sorts of different important functions. I don't always try to control every dream I have. So I'm not trying to lucid dream every time I close my eyes, because I understand the importance of letting my body rest, letting my mind rest, and letting it do its repair, its important processes. And then I always do my lucid dreaming in the wake back to bed cycle. But sometimes in my first sleep cycle, I'll still lucid dream, but I don't do it aggressively. It'll just happen naturally. And I find that to be a lot less invasive, because I don't think it's interrupting any of these natural processes. So I always talk about, or teach, following your natural sleep process and undo the bad habits that are inhibiting the atrophy that's preventing you from having a richer and more fulfilling dream life. But I wouldn't go about and do things like that method, because you can see right away that's breaking up your body's natural processes to do its important function, like remove toxins from the bloodstream. There's a lot of things that it's doing during sleep that are really important, and I don't think we should meddle with that part of it.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Fair enough. All right. So, I remember when I was a kid, I used to do what you were talking about with these phosphenes. I used to press on my eyes and just sit there and stare and look at them, look at the patterns, but I didn't know. But now, as being older and what I understand about computers and fractals, like you say in this article here that I dropped into the chat room, by the way, if you just search, dreams, or how lucid dreams are analogous to a computer, you'll find it on Google. But you're talking about how a fractal is a geometrical repeating pattern. The most commonly known one is the Mandelbrot set, and during pre-sleep, we naturally start to observe these fractals, or phosphene fractals, in a state known as hypnagogia. That's the thing, though. See, I don't ever remember seeing them, but I do know, and I don't want everybody to do this because you can damage your eyes, but I do know when I was a kid, I used to press on my eyes and just stare at them and be like, wow, look at all that. It looks like a kaleidoscope of geometry. But you're right. It makes it obvious.
Yeah, I mean, that brings it about. It stresses out the optic nerve. And when you're stressing out your optic nerve by using that method, it's interrupting the information processing, and it gives you a glimpse into that information processing process, because now you're maybe slowing it down, right? Another way this comes out for people, and now I've read about this, is through entheogens, like people who do DMT or do magic mushrooms will notice phosphene fractal, but the problem with that is it's emerging in their waking life and becoming apparent. But that could be, again, how it's interacting in the information processing flow, exposing that usually not observed process, because it usually happens so fast, like anything, how our eyes work, for film animation, 22 frames per second can create a very fluid movement that we then look at as an animation. So it's the same thing with this. It's a part of the animating process, the way our computer-like brain is processing data using neural geometry is what I call it. So you're kind of seeing the neural geometry, or the meshing system, at play, and how our brain is processing spatial information.
That's such a trip, man. It's you wouldn't think, how are they going to get, and I don't know how they figured this out, but is that how do you think they're doing Neuralink? Is, if you're talking about the cells, the cortex shows the cells showing off and on, active and inactive, off on's pretty much binary, right? With the basal ganglia acting as the switch. Well, if they must have figured out how to take a computer code, which is ones and zeros, and have some type of interface there to our brains, and in order to read that. Because I don't know how, and I'm not going to try to even figure it out on the show, but it just boggles me how they can get something like that to work, like Neuralink or whatever, and just hook it up to your brain. I don't think they can see what they think they can see, or it's something less of. If anybody knows, I'd be happy to. Please let me know, because it doesn't make sense.
The technology is there now with Japanese, the Japanese, what is it? I don't have my references in front of me, which is a kind of a disadvantage, but they are able now to extract, to a certain degree, using AI and fMRI, what the visual cortex is processing as feedback, so they can extract images that people are looking at or thinking about, and they're starting to model that. So in the future, we might actually have, if this is Neuralink, I'm not familiar with Neuralink, the ability to extract our dream experiences. But I think that technology is down the road. I don't think it's today, but it sounds like it's a very realistic technological achievement of science to solve that problem. And because, again, it is just information. Once they understand how that information code works in our neurology, and they can now translate that into something that they can create an interface for as a language, I don't see why they couldn't be able to be quite accurate with extracting, what we're thinking and stuff like that. It gets into that bit of the Black Mirror and spook science, but I do believe that technology, if it's not already there at a real high level, it could already be there at a high level. We don't know about it.
I can tell you how they're going to do it. And if you think that they won't do it, you're sadly mistaken. Because the only way they're going to be able to do this is experiment through humans, through dream states or waking reality. That's the only way they're going to be able to do it, to transfer actual visions, not symbols or not, maybe it's a bat, maybe it's a bird. No, like if they really want to transfer something like that, like real information or real environments, they're going to have to use human experimentation. I don't see any other way around it. And that, my friends, is not ethical, if you ask me, unless you volunteer for it. But would you volunteer for something like that? I don't think so. I wouldn't.
I don't think it's important. I think there's certain things, just because we can do something, Joe, we probably shouldn't. One of the things I'm very aware of is introducing something into this system can have dire consequences. And we've talked about this in the past, like just a technology like the gun, thinking, this is a great idea, I can invent a gun. But now look at the consequences of introducing that idea to our system. Ideas can be very dangerous. They can be weaponized. So, we have to look at the consequences of everything that we do and how it's going to impact our community and each other. So I weigh on that heavy. When we're introducing ideas publicly, let's introduce ideas that are beneficial to all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a guy that believes in spirit, but I'm also starting to think that maybe the great creator is nothing but just a big computer sometimes. I've talked to Thomas Campbell. I've talked to a lot of people that have discussed this with me, and I think we just don't want to think that because we have emotions in our hearts and stuff. We feel like it's something bigger than that. But there's a lot of evidence out there that shows that we are in some type of biocomputer, if that makes any sense, right? It does seem like that sometimes. What do you think, JM?
I keep thinking of David Bohm and the implicate order. We are here on the other side of something, seeing we're living in the simulation. What he called the implicate order would be the coding that is creating that simulation. And when you go to that side of things, everything is just data. It's just information. So what's happening on this side is the fully experienced rendering of that information and data. So there is something that we are emerging from that is completely beyond us, other than being able to create a conceptual framework like David Bohm and others have done. Carl Pribram is another one who's gone far into this subject and trying to understand how the brain is receiving and processing this information that's coming into it. That it's kind of an analogy is that it's like an antenna, right, and it's picking up the signal from somewhere else. So then you go, well, wait a minute, where's the freaking broadcast tower? If that's the case, and
yeah,
it's
right,
not even it's not within our reality. So we have no way of being able to know what it is other than by measuring its effects. There are, and we can only vaguely do that.
Right,
so
right.
What we are dealing with is beyond our ability to be able to know what it is, at least using the scientific method. And I'll bring up Ingo Swann here real quick. In his speech to the Theosophist Society just before he died, he gave a speech, and Ingo's the famous remote viewer.
Yeah.
He said that the scientific method that we use for understanding matter has done a really great job of helping us to understand matter, but we're only understanding the tip of the iceberg that way, because it's what we know as our reality in physical reality is just it's emerging from a deeper place. Right. And that we need something more than the scientific method to know and understand what that is.
I totally agree.
We are just now starting to know that this thing exists, and we're gaining the tools for being able to understand what it is. The Resonance Science Foundation is a good place to start with this.
The Resonance Science Foundation?
Yeah, it's they're understanding, they're delving into the holographic nature of the universe of reality, that it's a rendering on top of something that's deeper. And when you dig into what it is that's deeper, like all the way down to the Planck level and below, and Planck is the smallest unit of measurement. There are trillions of Plancks on the tip of your finger right now. And the entire universe is made of these things, and they're all oscillating together. And this is as far as we've been able to go in our understanding of it. But there is something even deeper than that. The Planck is just as far as we can go conceptually to understand what it is. So, man, it's humbling, because
it is,
as much
definitely.
as we think that
that's because
we're barely scratching the surface.
Yeah, they're explaining the least of things for sure. And I want to go ahead and take this caller. I think they've been waiting for a minute. 206 area code. You're on the air with Ian Wilson and J.M. DeBord. Who are we speaking with?
Hey, Joe. It's Craven, or David.
Oh, that's just the right guy to talk to you about this stuff. What's up, buddy?
Good. Nothing much. Just listening in and drinking coffee. So what do you want me to talk about? I've got a few different things. I've got some precog things I could talk about, or some dreams.
Well,
that I could share.
I don't know if we got a time for a whole dream, but I mean, if you have a way of, like, when we asked the question, I don't know if you guys know Craven or not, but he's like, he's one of our biggest dreamers. And I don't think he's got as much experience as Ian, but he's got quite a bit. And I'm wondering if have you figured out a way to say, hey, this is a precog or something? Because you heard us talking about that before, right? I mean, it would be great if we could know somehow.
Yeah. So I had a lot more experience with precog when I was a kid. So I learned how to lucid dream when I was 6 years old, and I got really kind of into it for a while and got pretty experienced. And the way I was having precogs on a regular basis, and the way I started to sort of figure out which ones were hits and which ones weren't.
Really?
And then it got to the point where I could kind of feel the probability of it in a way, like there was a chance that it could happen or couldn't happen, but it was a feeling when I experienced the dream. So in the dream, there would be a particular feeling, and depending on the strength and nature of that feeling, I could kind of tell if it was going to happen, or if it was like sort of likely, that sort of thing.
Okay, so emotion then, right? Emotion. See, that's the thing that I was talking to them about, right? So when you say feeling, is it an emotion or is it more like a hunch?
No, I don't know if there's a direct correlate to waking life. I guess you'd have to have some experience with dreams to kind of know, because it's like it's a feeling that I've only had in dreams, where it's not an emotion, it's not a thought. It's like I'm feeling the temperature of the room in a way. It's almost like a kinesthetic thing, but
it's a knowing.
It's like something in me is reaching out into the atmosphere, and I'm just like absorbing it.
Gotcha. Okay. So maybe it's something we just got to develop over time. Like we develop this understanding or some type of feeling that we can't explain, that this could be a precog. There's a high chance that this is showing me my future. Right? Is that what you're saying? You just need to have that skill.
I would say that I was kind of gifted, I think, but it's also something that I think is easier for a child to experience, because once we develop, the brain fully develops and our ego fully develops, like there's a lot of barriers and boundaries that are necessary for functioning, that also kind of you have to kind of learn how to reprogram yourself in order to be able to experience that kind of thing again. And it takes a considerable amount of effort and focus and exploration. And I think the number one rule is having trusting your own experience and following your intuition, because that's basically what I did when I was a kid. Is I was just following. There was this flow, and it was just taking me. I was following the intuitive impulses to do things, and I learned all kinds of exercises and practices that have been taught for in dream yoga for hundreds of years, and it's like there's these intuitive impulses that you just kind of follow. As an adult, it's a huge challenge, and
Gotcha.
I'm trying to work with this stuff, and it's so much. I think the big challenge is I want so much to direct it consciously, but when I was a kid, it just happened, and I just kind of went with it, and then that developed over time.
We got to take our break here, but I'll tell you what I want to do. I want to actually, now that I have you, I want Ian and JM to go through a dream with you, because you're like one of the most skilled dreamers I've ever talked to. I want to see what these guys have to say about it. And if you want to call in too, you can. 1-800-588-0335. Now's the time. We'll be right back.
Thanks for listening to this broadcast. Need another late night fix? You can tune in every weeknight to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop on The Fringe FM.
Hi, this is David Oman with houseattheendofthedrive.com. You're listening to KPLK, The Fringe FM.
This is the Rogie Report News on The Fringe FM. I'm Jess Rogie. NASA has announced its first ever travel destination. In a partnership with Axiom Space, the pair has provided the first habitable commercial modules, which will be attached to the International Space Station. The commercialization of space is known as low Earth orbit economy and has been in the works by NASA for a few years. Axiom plans to offer a new gateway into space and allow tourists and business professionals to visit and work in orbit. Axiom expects researchers, manufacturers, and wealthy tourists to be among the first to explore the new atmosphere, and it could all be possible as soon as 2021. Elon Musk has announced to fly a Japanese billionaire and guest around the moon on SpaceX's Falcon spaceship in 2023. Richard Branson will be testing out Virgin Galactic's Spaceship 2 in February, while Jeff Bezos plans to charge passengers between $200,000 and $300,000 for a short flight above the New Shepard suborbital rocket this year. UCI chemists have reported that they've found nanoscale fragments of fungal cells in the atmosphere. The pieces are extremely small, measuring about 30 nanometers in diameter. Researchers have said in a study published in the Science Advances that these bits of fungus are easier to inhale deep into the lungs than intact cells which can be thousands of nanometers in diameter. This means it could contribute to fungus-related allergies and asthma among susceptible people. An entity encounter was reported to MUFON earlier this month in Westboro, Massachusetts. She observed an egg-shaped object in an upright position with a person inside of it wearing a suit. He looked at me but didn't move, the witness said. The craft then took off, and the witness stated it was about the size of a helicopter. A fish farm was proposed off the coast of Scotland's Isle of Skye. Officials received a letter from a group titling themselves the Friends of Fairies. The group declared that the location for the proposed fish farm is home to the population of a mermaid-like entity known as the Ashray. They went on to explain that the sea fairies live for hundreds of years and will come up to the surface of the water once each century to bathe in the moonlight, which helps them grow. The letter continued, explaining that the steel of the fish farm cages can draw the Ashray to the surface, with only one result: they will melt. The group also warned the fishermen working the location could be at risk due to the fairies attempting to lure them with treasure. Ancient folklore was cited as the reason to turn down the application to build a 12-cage salmon farm off the coast of the island of Skye. In a new survey of over 1,000 adults carried out by Ground Zero found that the majority of Americans, about 57%, believe there is intelligent life elsewhere in the galaxy, and more than a quarter of those believe those are alien societies. 45% of those surveyed believe that UFOs exist and have visited Earth. This is the Rogie Report News on the Fringe FM. I'm Jess Rogie.
What's up, Joe? Hey, man, I just wanted to say your show, dude, keeps getting better and better and better. I love Lighting the Void and the Fringe FM.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast where we tell real paranormal experiences of people from around the world. And we also conduct interviews with authors, investigators, psychics, and mediums. Real people, real stories, real fear. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM. See you then.
Hey, this check is wrong. I worked a holiday and 7 hours of overtime. Not getting paid correctly is a real pain. It could also hurt our boss if our company provides out-of-compliance checks. That's right, construction companies doing business with the government can get fined, or officials of the companies can go to jail if the checks aren't right. It's a law. The Davis-Bacon Act has 30 compliance issues for every check, but there is an easy way for construction companies to be in compliance. EMARS offers Compliant Client, a web-based system that finds and corrects all 30 of the possible out-of-compliance check issues. Users of Compliant Client report an 80% savings in time and money. Running a weekly payroll usually takes about 5 minutes. All 15,000 plus clients of EMARS have never had a legal compliance issue. Plus, they sleep better on check day. Contact EMARS at emarsinc.com or call 480-595-0466.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Alex X. Hi, I'm Alex Exum, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
You're listening to Lighting the Void. The call-in number is 1-800-588-0335.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void, live on the Fringe FM. Don't forget, after this broadcast tonight, the Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable is on, and he's also on 5 nights a week. So we've got broadcasting here for you 5 nights a week, every single week. And tonight with us is Ian Wilson, also J.M. DeBord, and the caller, which is one of our, I guess you could say, one of our better dream guys on the Fringe, and the Fringe chat is Craven. And Craven just called in, but JM's, I forgot, JM, you got to go, brother. So I want you, if you don't mind, please tell everybody that where they can find you at on the web and where they can find the Reddit board too.
Yeah, man. Dreams.reddit.com. That's our community there. And 130,000 strong right now. It's not to say those people are there all the time. You know, it would be crazy if they were. But it's become a big board, and there's a lot of discussion there, and you're welcome to come and share your dream life and talk with other people about theirs, or, you know, post links to things that you find that are interesting that are related to dreams. If you want to know more about how to interpret dreams, I teach this subject, and you know, you can go to dreams123.net as a place to begin. I've been keeping a blog there, which is more of a site with all these resources. There's a newsletter, dreams123.net/newsletter, and it will give you, I have that all set up so that you will be emailed resources from me, from all this stuff I've published and put out on YouTube and podcasts and stuff like Joe on your show. I'll take it, and if I, you know, I'll grab it and I'll, you know, put a recording up so that people can go in and absorb this information and really find out for themselves what are their dreams about, and how can they understand more about themselves through their dreams. And then if they want to get into the online courses at dreamschool.net, you can really take it, amp it up and really dive in, learn a lot. There's a free introduction so that you can find out what it's about. A lot of it is me talking to a camera, but it's also kind of like being in a college classroom, and I'll teach you from the beginning all the way through. You don't have to know anything about dreams, really. I'll give you the information you need. We'll have a scientific basis to it. It's grounded in traditional psychology, in the psychology of dreams, and then in the neuroscience, some of the stuff that Ian's been talking about. I like pulling in this information, but also just the experience of it. I tell people your dreams are stories. If you can understand a story and the deeper, kind of context and subtext and stuff of it, you can understand your dreams. So dreamschool.net and dreams123.net. Check it out.
Jam,
and
man,
thanks for having me,
coming
bro.
on.
It's been a pleasure.
Can't wait to talk to you again, brother. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Always, Joe. We'll talk again.
All right, you take care. Jam DeBord, everybody. And that's one hell of a guy when it comes to dreams, right? So now Ian's with us, and then we got Craven who's called in too. I got a text in I want to talk to both of you about, and I think it's a pretty good point before we get into Craven's journeys here. And I'll ask you first, Ian, after I say this, but it's a pretty good point. He says, to assume we are nothing but code, so demeans the emotional, loving nature of the human condition as to render our purpose meaningless. I cannot believe that we are only automations, I think is what he's saying. That's a pretty good point. I mean, what would you say about that, Ian?
I agree that's not true. These are just ideas, so I wouldn't grasp at them as being fact. We are existence itself, in a sense that we've been around for a lot longer than just this lifetime, as you know, and so we are effectively nodes of reality looking back at itself. If we take the Bill Hicks look at the nature of ourselves, and there is that emotionality. We do love, and we are compassionate and empathetic and kind. Not everybody, unfortunately. There are people that have taken a different path in the world that haven't quite learned the value of that interconnectedness. But when we get into the relationship here, we look at the singularity that allegedly has spawned the entire universe with the Big Bang. Another theory for that is that singularity was awareness, that the singularity was the start of consciousness, and that it only had itself by which to build upon. And so it could think, it was self-aware, so it started to construct patterns and frameworks of repeat patterns that became more complex, and more complex would start to become recursive feedback, and a recursive feedback loop forming information, and that information started to become dreams, and it started to immerse itself into these dreams, become many parts that then unfold into the universe. So we come from an interconnected universe, like we've talked about before. So on the moral aspect of everything, what we do to others here, we do to ourselves. We're all part of a whole.
I tend to agree with that. What about you, Craven? What are your thoughts on the simulated computer reality? Do you think, based on your experiences with dreams and consciousness exploration, that it's a possibility that that's all we are?
I think of reality as like a series of layers, but I kind of see the whole, where it's a matrix or anything, that kind of thing, where it's a computer-generated reality. I think that's just the newest metaphor that we've figured out, that we've come up with to kind of explain this and conceptualize it for ourselves. But I think the real experience is beyond concept, and it's something that can only be experienced. There's some kind of theory I've heard recently where the theory is that you in order to be conscious, there's this discussion about consciousness and artificial intelligence, and there's some theorists that believe that they're saying that you need biological material in order to have consciousness, like in order to interact with, like it's a full-on interaction with reality in order to have the consciousness. I think we'll get to a point where we can recreate ourselves, and we'll see how that works out. But there's the hologram theory of, like,
the hologram, yeah, that's like the
Kaku, I think.
Right. Yeah, but Thomas Campbell came on here and negated that. He said we're not holograms by any means. I mean, he's a physicist too, but I think he said that we were using that well, I think you just said it actually. He said they're more using the holograms as a something to relate to more than it actually is a hologram.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing about that theory is the idea that what was created by an intelligence, and they're using mathematical theory to find patterns and show that the patterns that are here are put in place by an orderly intelligence of some kind. But I think that if we do, I think everybody, the spiritual traditions have been exploring this thing for eons, and they're like, well, there is no concept when you get to that level, and so we can use metaphor and language to try to guide ourselves in that direction to kind of try to understand it and conceptualize it. But at the end of the day, there's no way to conceptualize. I think there's no way to conceptualize the core of it.
Ian, you wrote your last book, Living a Dream That Lasts a Lifetime? Was that book about how, if I understand correctly, that you believe that life itself is just a different form of a dream, but it's all kind of based on the same concepts, or am I wrong about that?
No, you're right. I mean, when I look at our deeper relationship with reality, I don't see reality entirely as a physical system. I look at the idea of physicality as a property of measuring information, so that, as we know with quantum mechanics, we deal with an electron can be either a probability distribution as interference pattern, but once we measure it, it collapses and behaves as a particle. So I really recognize the relationship between information and reality. And of course, because of precognition being kind of the smoking gun, at least giving you a direct experience into the idea that, we already exist in a future somehow that then becomes our current event. It shows that there's a relationship in this depth of ourselves that that reality itself may be a unified field or a dream that we're all interconnected with, that, is there for all of us, like a mass shared dream that we're all having together in this story.
Right.
So
right
again, that's just, my view of it based on a lot of the emerging science with quantum mechanics and, of course, information theory and virtual reality theory, but mostly direct experience with dreaming something and then having it happen later, as an indicator that there probably is a lot more to this relationship between the dream state and the waking state than we realize.
I'll ask this to you too, Ian, and maybe Craven could answer this too. This is from the Night Stalker in the Fringe FM chat. He's asking, can lucid dreaming be weaponized like Inception? Can we use dreams, do you think, possibly to weaponize? Well, you know what? I would say that if they figure this thing with Neuralink, that could be one way. What are your thoughts on that, Ian?
Well, I think anything can be weaponized. When you leave it to something that involves military intelligence, they tend to weaponize everything from biowarfare to nanotechnology to food, all sorts of different, anybody can turn anything into a weapon, right? Myself personally, that wouldn't even come across my interest at all. I wouldn't ever want to weaponize a dream for any reason, because I don't like hurting people or hurting life. So, but I would say that comes at an individual level if somebody would go there, be that guy. But I myself know better than to poke the beast.
It seems like sometimes we're our own worst weapon too, if we don't.
Right.
And that's the thing, man. That's why we talk about this stuff a lot, because not only can you use this stuff to change your life, but you can use it as tools to help manifest your reality too. And I know that I talk a lot about manifesting stuff and I talk to a lot of witches and wizards and the occultists, but Craven is kind of, you're one of these guys that believe you're pretty much initiating yourself through dream work, aren't you? I mean, we had a discussion about that once, I believe, that you believe that dream work is good enough.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So why do you believe that?
Everybody has their own path. It just so happens that for whatever reason, partly my genetics and psychology, and also my circumstances as a child, I just kind of fell into it, and it was kind of a gift. So dreaming as the path, there's so many ways to go about learning the spiritual path, going inward, figuring out the nature of your own reality. I think dreaming has, Freud said it was the royal road to the unconscious. Plato talked up dreams a lot. There's a lot of really intelligent people that looked into the nature of humanity and our psychology that looked at dreams and are like, hey, this is important. This is kind of a big deal right here. It doesn't mean everybody should devote their lives to it, but everybody has a dream that they remember. And I think our society in general, it's the phrase, it's just a dream, that really gets under my skin. And it's like, well, maybe it's not just a dream. Maybe that's coming from the core of your being and giving a little bit of space to breathe and giving it a little energy and just not trying. You don't even have to analyze it or anything. Just give it some emotional energy, and to see where that leads. You could delve. I love Carl Jung. You can delve into analysis. You can delve into. There's so many dream people that have developed awesome ways to interact with your dreams. But just giving it space, I think, is great.
Well, Ian, I'm interested in your story. I know the first time you came on the show, you talked about that, and what Craven's talking about makes me think that you're lucky, man. Like, you got to experience something. And we didn't really get into your whole story about that, but you got to experience something, an encounter, I guess, that kind of changed your life, right? I mean, didn't it change your life when you realized, when you met, I guess, these, were they real actual beings? I mean, how do you know that they weren't parts of your consciousness? Or maybe, I know I'm not just playing devil's advocate because I believe you, but I'm just saying, how do you know they weren't, just your imagination?
Because there were other people there, Joe, so it wasn't just me having that experience. There
so
were
you and
three other people, right? Yeah, it wasn't just me. If it was just me by myself, I would easily dismiss it, most likely. I'd be like, okay, this wasn't real.
Do you think the meteor shower had something to do with it, though?
I don't. When we get into certain events, it's really hard to understand what the purpose of such an event really is. All I know is that event took place, and I didn't ask for the event, and didn't have a belief in that event, and it just landed in my lap, just the right place, the right time, and again with other people. So it would be very hard for myself to dismiss it, because other people were present and witnessed it also. So, but never again, right? So I've never had a re-encounter that I know of, and that leaves me left with a lot of questions too, Joe. I mean, I don't know the answer to that. Unfortunately, I'm kind of earthbound like everybody else. We get our information through our sensory filters and the world that we're in, and we live in an information age now, and there's a lot of truth, and there's also a lot of lies, a lot of disinformation. So one has to really do their homework while they're here to answer questions. So that's self-edification. I think dreams also help with self-edifying, because it can provide us a little peek into a larger part of ourselves.
Well, what makes me think that life is some type of dream is because, and I know people, they're not going to be like, what? But UFOs, right? And the UFOs that come down, some, not the military ones, not the ones that are definitely some type of craft, but there have been orbs, and I've seen them. UFO seekers have seen them. I wouldn't even call them orbs. Definitely some type of orangish, amberish thing that seems to move super fast and can phase in and out of reality. They've caught them with still picture cameras, and these things, to me, they look alive. They look like some type of being or something, and you've talked about that too, like beings of light before. I remember discussing that with you, right?
Right. That's right.
And so what do you think they are? What is their purpose? What are they doing? Are they watchers or what?
Well, the thing again is, the being of light is, as far as I'm concerned, our graduate self from the human experience. It's where we move on an evolutionary cycle of, we're all diamonds in the rough. Coal doesn't become a diamond without pressure. So while we're in this system having this experience, we're learning, it's edifying us. And
wow.
However long it takes to get through that, we eventually evolve into another type of being where, that being of light seems to be the end game for us. Because, like I said, we talked about that with my pre-life memory coming at what I thought I was in a lake, and I was picking up these fragmented cell-like objects, and I didn't know what they were. They were like little cells, and I dropped them back in the water before I got pushed back into this lifetime. But then when I was at the Monroe Institute and I was going through the Gateway program, I returned to that lake, and instead of being gray, dimly lit cells, it was just a sea of beings of light. So as to how I interpret that, that to me kind of gives me the hope that, when we come out of this experience, that we've grown, we become better beings. Just sort of like what Tom Campbell talks about, the quality of yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're onto something.
He also warns too that, if you go in the opposite direction, you risk never existing again.
Whew, that's a scary thought.
You can get diluted by the system. Yeah, he seems to have information on that. I don't have that information because I haven't come across it. But Tom, I think, is more into this at a deeper level than even me. I think he is at the top of the top. So for him to say something like that, it really weighs in on the consequences of our choices here.
Well,
and, where it leads us into our eternal future. There may be none for some.
Right. Well, both of you have, well, I know Craven for sure. I get in this kind of battle with myself because of the experience I had, the out-of-body experience, where I was an actual, and I know people are going to say, how can you prove this? But I was an actual local reality, the one that you see right now with your eyes. I was there, and it was incredible. And it made me think, okay, dreams, lucid dreams, this is not it. This is something different. And yet I've talked to, I don't know how many people that have said, well, it's all the same thing. It's just a level of consciousness or whatever. And I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure about that. I don't know if you want to touch on that, Craven, but I know that you think that it's possibly just a different state of being, right? But the same thing as lucid dreaming.
Well, let me explain it this way. The way I see it is, it's like all of the colors of the rainbow. They're all different and unique, but they're all light. So it's all part of a spectrum, but they're each very unique in their own way. And I think I think there's a lot of potential in the dream state, because one of the first things that people talk about in spiritual practice is being able to clear your mind. And in the dream state, you should practice the same thing there, but you don't have to worry about your senses. It's kind of, you're already kind of a couple steps ahead because your senses are already turned off and you're in this other state. So you can kind of focus in and hone in on this, I feel, is limitless potential. And, I haven't invested a lot of time into attempting out-of-body travel. That's something that I'm getting into more recently. I've had a lot more success with it. I've focused a lot more on chasing feelings, and I don't know if you don't mind, I could loop it back around to that initiation thing.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
And yeah, so talking about making dreaming as the path, and I think Ian could probably speak to this, and maybe I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I had this dream, and it's confusing because I'm given a window into a tradition, a spiritual path that isn't really my own, but it's something that I was picking up on. So like, I was watching these interviews with a guy that studies ancient Persian culture, and I was going on my own dream journey in my own life, and it's like I picked up on this thing, and then I had a dream where I was speaking ancient Persian, and I was like, I learned all of this later, but I was speaking ancient Persian, and I was having this experience like the hero of Zoroastrianism, Zoroaster. Like, he goes up on the mountain, and it's like, why am I having this experience that's so outside my own context? And I can kind of see that it's in my flow of like where I'm at in my journey, but it's like my consciousness attached onto this thing, and it's like, oh, I can use that, and plugs it in, and oh, I can use this, plugs it in, and it just takes all of this stuff and then creates this amazing experience out of it. And there's even paranormal elements in there with, like, I'm speaking a language that I don't know, and it's like clearly with the dream. And yeah, so that when it comes to initiation and using dreaming for the path, it's like I don't even know how to be like.
You're getting a feeling that there's something to it,
step
right?
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, but you're getting a feeling that it's there. Yeah. Well, what do you think, Ian?
No, I mean, yeah.
Well, like I said, I mean, while we're here in our current focus state, are dressed up in a personality that's very familiar to us. But in the deeper part of yourself, like I said, I mean, you're talking to a person that's come into this life from another lifetime. And during this lifetime, I've been reconciling that relationship and reason for, and it's something that I do on my own because, of course, in this focus state, most people are pretty shut down from spirituality. So it's a very personal journey to start to heal the fragmented mind of oneself and find out that you've existed probably in multiple lifetimes. And your consciousness is a way of stitching back memory and stitching back experiences in a very subtle way with our dreams to present the experience to you. But over time, as you start to understand yourself beyond your current self, that you're much more than just this moment in time, that you're eternal, you're part of the absolute, you're part of the infinite.
Yeah, that's a very,
There's
pretty
a
profound,
big depth
brother.
to what we are, yeah.
Pretty profound statement there. I mean, tonight is really going by so quick. I mean, and when Ian's here, Craven's here. If you want to call in, now's the time to do it. It's 1-800-588-0335. Go by lightingthevoid.com and grab your T-shirt. I think somebody called in to get a T-shirt. Just go to the shop, click on the one you want, and then pick your color and size. We got all kinds of stuff there in the store. Void walkers all over the United States. We'll be right back.
You're listening to The Fringe FM.
Somewhere between abnormal and paranormal, there's a show called Into the Paranormal. I'm Jeremy Scott. Hear me live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern on The Fringe FM.
Hey, I'm J.M. DeBord, and when I want to talk about dreams, I look up my man Joe Root and his show, Lighting the Void.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
Listen, I want to tell you about G.I. Joy from GetTheT.com. It's the best alchemical concoction of goodies for your stomach and digestive system I can recommend, and that's all based on my experience. Packed with colostrum, acidophilus, aloe, peppermint, and turmeric. If you do your own research, then you know this is the bee's knees for the stomach and digestion. Now, due to Big Brother's ears and the eye in the sky, you know I can't go into the details about what it helped me with. All I can say is I got relief. It's non-GMO, no fillers, no preservatives, manufactured right here in the US of A, and delivered to you by the only people who stay on top of the game and are out in front. Go grab a bottle of G.I. Joy at GetTheT.com and see what all the fuss is about. Again, that's GetTheT.com.
Hi, this is Sammy. Join us in the Deep South as we're lighting the void with Joe Roop on The Fringe FM.
Right, me old Chiners. I know it's an ad break, but before you lot shoot off and make yourself a cup of Rosie Lee or whatever else it is you're going to sling down your Gregory Peck, you need to listen to me babble. If, like me, you found your way to Lighting the Void via a downloadable podcast, you might want to take a butcher's at the Fringe FM Wind and Kite. You won't Adam and Eve how many other shows there are or what they rabbit on about. Ancient history, conspiracy, the consciousness, the esoteric, the occult, metaphysics, parapolitical, ufology, technology, comedy and spirituality, to name but a few. They got featured hosts like Ryan Gable, Jeremy Scott, Alex Exum, Tim Doyle, Cortana and Gigi, Susanna Ross, the Reverend John Polk, Michael Deacon and J.D. Lewis. You might find yourself listening to the thoughts and theories of the author of the fish you just finished reading. Or you could pick up the dog and bone, call in and tell everyone your own beliefs or experiences. So do me a favour, before you put on the Ansel or crack open a bottle of vino or roll a joint, go to the Fringe FM and see what you're missing.
Are you intrigued by paranormal talk radio? You'll love the new paranormal radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. I'm your host, Joe Roop. I want to thank J.M. DeBord for coming on the show. Right now, we still have Ian Wilson with us, author and Dream and Consciousness Explorer Ian Wilson, as well as a couple of callers here that we know very well. Craven, who is a Dream Explorer, and Void Walker, too. And then our producer, Pacho, is called in as well. So it's always cool when Pacho calls in. And I know you got something you want to share with Ian and Craven. You got a dream you said you wanted to talk about?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to call it a dream.
I hope it's a dream.
That's kind of why I wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah, no, it is. Well, the story that JM and Ian shared about seeing the digital rendering happening while he was fully awake. So I had an experience that it was during sleep, so I'm going to call it a dream. But I was in a state of in between, so it's kind of like if you've ever fainted or passed out and then you don't realize you passed out until you're waking up again, or kind of like having anesthesia with surgery, that type of thing. And then it goes from that to all, the way I can describe it is a
surgery
pixelated phase in. Yeah, well, it's that kind of lack of consciousness, I guess.
Okay.
So it goes from that, like being in a void, so to speak, to a pixelated digital phase-in of reality is the way I can describe it, where it went from blackness to just these pixels of colors and light, like phasing in, like going from black to gradually brighter and brighter and brighter. And then I found myself in a fully immersed reality where I'm in my corporeal body, and I was in my car, which in this life I had actually sold, and so that got my attention straight away. But I'm driving down the road, and the most subtle details are all there, where I can feel myself sitting on the seat. The car had leather seats, black leather. I could kind of smell the leather. When I'd move my hands on the steering wheel, there's just, when you drive your car, there's just that sound of like when your hands are on the steering wheel and you're turning it, your fingers pressing against the vinyl. And I look over, and my boy Ziggy is in the car with me, and we're driving down what's called Main Street, this little town that's north of where I live. And there's natural daylight, there's like full scenery and everything. And I look over at him, and I'm trying to figure all this out, and I was very confused. I was like, Ziggy, what are we doing here? Why are we in the car that we sold? And everything was just so real, as if we were there now. But then the one thing that was odd was that he kind of looked at me, and then he looked out the front of the car, and he didn't say anything. And so that was kind of like the one element that made it feel more like a dream. It lasted for a good couple minutes, and then I would describe it as I fell asleep, and that's when the experience ended, so to speak.
I could tell you had some emotions that went with that, though, too, didn't you? I mean, anytime, that's pretty trippy, man. What do you think about that, Ian? What do you think was going on?
Yeah, and that's kind of, again, you're picking up on those changes that go into a dream when you're starting to see those kind of attributes emerge. I mean, it's actually very common for people that do a lot of conscious participation using the wild technique to engage those types of processes. And meditators also can trigger a similar effect as in meditation. One of the things people start to notice are the emergences of fractals and things like that as well. Again, it's just that the mind is an amazing information processing system. It's nature's evolved like the perfect virtual reality computer. We're all reality rendering farms. We're all taking in information and processing information and outputting an interface to that information as our experience, as our life. And it's amazing. It's taken billions of years for this to fine-tune itself to give us the kind of depth of experience that we have today. So kudos to nature.
Well,
I'd say so.
It's funny that Craven was talking about initiatic process. Manly P. Hall wrote a book called, it's actually a short book called What the Ancient Wisdom Expects from Its Disciples. And he talked about how the exoteric temples that we have here, like Masonic halls or temples or whatever, he said, these are just the exoteric form of the real initiation that happens in the internal realms. And he discussed like hidden masters that would show up to you. Also that only you and you alone would know that you have moved on to the next process or whatever. And it does make me question things. Like, I don't know if you're comfortable speaking about it, but I wonder about that with you, Ian. Like if you had that encounter where you encountered something like that and you just like, well, what's the point in really explaining it because they're not going to believe me, or you know what I mean? You had something like that happen to you?
Far too many times, of course. I mean, generally the things that I talk about aren't common experiences that people have, and I wish it were not true that more people had them. But again, when you're in this system, there's a lot of belief, and that can get in the way, I think, as a filter to prevent people from accessing their higher consciousness and engaging that process. Because a lot of the stuff that I talk about, other people have talked about, comes through the way of direct experience. And generally, when you experience something, it's so subjective to you because we live in a subjective paradox, and that subjective paradox is bound to every life form experiences reality from a subjective viewpoint, their window into the story of life, right? So then you get into the issue of a person can have a completely different life and experience than somebody else. And so when they talk and engage their experiences to somebody else that can't relate to them, they just end up sounding kind of crazy. And the other person dismisses what they have to say without any further consideration that it might be the truth. And that's a very common challenge in this system because, again, we have been really heavily indoctrinated by a lot of different social, religious, and political narratives that kind of bind us to a way of thinking that kind of reprograms ourselves from trusting ourselves or believing in ourselves. There's not a lot of people that teach you to believe in you in the world, and that's a very important part of your journey is believing in yourself, having faith in yourself.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree with that. I just wish that, well, when you sleep at night, don't they say you have like so many dreams a minute? I don't know how true. I don't even know how they can measure that. How do they measure how many times somebody can dream? It doesn't mean, is it maybe it's the REM state that they say, okay, well, they're having one dream. Now they're having another. I mean, how do they know that? Does anybody know?
Well, now with fMRI scans, they can see that the brain is processing information in regions of the brain that deal with dreaming. And they also now discovered something that I wrote back in my book, You Are Dreaming, back in 2010, where I talk about the mechanics of dreaming. And I say that it's very likely that our brain utilizes the same sensory regions of the brain to process dream information. And now it's confirmed now here in 2017 by a university study that used fMRI scans looking at people that were dreaming and noticed that we also store memory in our senses in sensory regions. So again, we draw upon everything that we experience where it's stored in ourselves to compose the dream state. So information processing is taking place in not just small little regions of the brain, but the entire brain repurposes itself. So they call it repurposing itself for processing certain dream experiences. And the lucid dream repurposes the most amount of the brain for that experience. So it engages far more of the prefrontal cortex than a person that doesn't. And in people that don't actively dream have a very dim brain when they're sleeping. So it's not active. You won't see a lot of information popping up in fMRI and stuff like that that goes to what I call the sleeping brain. And the sleeping brain, again, is, that's just how we've conditioned ourselves in our practices for participation in something that we have each night, because everyone has 4 to 6 dreams each night. I made the choice to participate in mine and participate as consciously as I could for the duration of my life, because one view I have is like I wouldn't want to drive my car unconsciously, and I certainly don't want to drive my dreams unconsciously either. So try to get into the driver's seat, of the dream experience was my philosophy. And it's been well worth it. I've been rewarded in ways that people, until they do it themselves, will never understand. So it's hard to sell that. If you like genre-specific lucid dreaming is something that I'm also big into. I know that we can dream based on what we experience. So when I was a kid, I noticed watching Star Wars, I go to sleep at night and I would suddenly find myself dreaming in the context of Star Wars. And the reason for that is because, that's the way our mind processes experiences from episodic and semantic memory replay. And there's studies now here starting in 2002 and onward where they notice like people who play video games can actually start sleep or dreaming in the world of that video game, which I've done since, all throughout my dream history, because I've learned about that waking world influences will influence, our dream content. So watch a horror movie, you're going to have nightmares. And that's why some people, when you say, do you want to watch a horror movie? They go, no, it's going to give me nightmares. We know that dreams are a canopy of our waking life experiences. But as you grow and you start to evolve, you start to then realize that these influences are impacting you. So you get more selective. I actually am with a community of lucid dreamers that kind of drew me in. And then I've been so busy with my work right now, I haven't been able to spend too much time with them. But they're all very much like me in the sense that they're pioneering their own self-edification through dreaming. And we're all realizing that, hey, these dreams are morally edifying. They're truth edifying. They're giving us an evolutionary opportunity to grow ourselves. And, and I was quite impressed talking to some people that have recovered drug addictions because they found that engaging their dreams were far more important and rewarding than chasing short-term dopamine releases in the brain. That instant gratification that we seek here, all the pleasure seeking, sometimes delaying those rewards can have greater benefits. And I always say I just leave that to the dream state to have the most fun. And then that just lets me kind of focus on my work and everything here in my waking life. So it is an interesting journey when you participate in that part of yourself and what it can teach you about you.
Yeah, definitely.
I just the cost.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't know how to. I think learning how to go about it is one thing, but I guess understanding synchronicity and reading a little bit of Carl Jung and using active imagination would definitely help. It could help us if we start to understand these things. And there's a question here on the text line that says, is it true that you can't properly read or look at maps in a dream state? Anybody want to comment on that?
I can. I mean, again, this is an issue of cognitive atrophy. One thing that we haven't really discussed a lot on the show is that dreaming is like a language skill. So if you don't develop your dreams during your early childhood development, like you're developing your language, and if we look at, say, language development in a child, if a child isn't stimulated with language as they grow up, our brain develops neural pathways that facilitate our learning over a process of time up to we're 25 years old until our brain kind of becomes hardwired. And these are called deep neural pathways that become through repeat stimulation of the same kind of replay, right? So by the time we reach 25, if we're not participating in our dreams as a practice, we're going to be in a state of cognitive atrophy. We haven't developed the neural processing, the neurons that develop for people that do dream. So once you're past 25, that's why most adults don't remember their dreams. They don't have, and it's the same thing with your logical mind. When you bring your self-awareness into the dream state, what you're really doing is bringing in your critical thinking, your analytical self, your logical self. And when you do that in the dream state, reading is just like reading in waking life because there's no atrophy. When you have atrophy, you get letters that spin around. It produces noise. And another form of, atrophy is just in not being able to taste in a dream. A lot of people don't get to taste in a dream. They don't get to smell in a dream. They only get to sometimes engage visual information from the dream, because that's the most prioritized that they've been with dreaming, was the visual aspects of it. So I've trained myself in my life to work on stimulating by using waking world experiences as the paint for my dream, realizing that the more I engage my waking life in being aware of my senses, aware of my experiences, it's giving my subconscious mind information now that can replay when I sleep at night. So now I can taste, I can touch, I can read, I can live a second life in my dream state. And that was the reward of this practice, was being able to live not just one life, but two or more. So it's been very rewarding. What can I say about it? It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, when the last time you were on here and you were talking about, man, I could really do anything I want to do in a dream. If I want to experience certain things, I can just go do it. Now, that's a hell of a concept. Think about that. And I'm thinking about this in a lot of different ways. And I know some of you guys are going, yeah. All right. So like, if you've got, I don't know, trauma, emotional problems, or let's say you're depressed, I think maybe what Ian's saying here is like, hey, if there's something that you think will make you happy, some type of experience you want to have, you could probably do it. I mean, there's certain things in life, I guess, that you can't do in your dream state because eventually you got to wake up. But I mean, like one-time experiences and stuff, that's pretty profound. And you're saying like, well, I'll give you an example. The same one you gave me. Like if you wanted to eat, I don't know, vanilla ice cream or something in a dream because you hadn't had ice cream in a long time or whatever. It doesn't, it tastes the same. Does it feel fulfilling? Can you feel it in your stomach? Is there anything that's different? Right? That's what I'm wondering about.
Well, usually with the eating in dreams, you don't usually notice the getting full effect for sure, but you definitely get depending on how well I do something called cognitive mapping, and I don't know if I'll get it done in time, but I've been working on a website that covers a lot of this that I was putting together called dreamingforgamers.com. So the site's kind of there, but it's not fully done yet. But what I wanted to accomplish with it is a series of courses which gets into basically working with fixing and healing cognitive atrophy by stimulating those regions of the brain while you're awake, by engaging in sensory experiences that you want to dream about when you go to sleep at night in the replay. And just to get that repeat process going so that you can get proper neural stimulation so your brain develops better neural pathways for dreaming and neurons for dreaming. It was the goal of that site. But yeah.
You're wanting to build like a dream machine, aren't you? Where you can do anything.
Yes. That's exactly what I wanted to give to the world.
A dream machine. That'd be cool. I'd take part in that.
And use video games, using video games as a form of training for your dreaming so that you can have easier reality checks, so that you can have symbols and metaphors that you've now constructed that you know aren't real. So it makes it very easy for the logical mind to go, wait, this is a video game I was playing. I know I'm dreaming. There's no reason why I should be in a dream that's a video game unless it's a dream. To break away from the super dream realism, which requires a much more astute reality check. So,
that makes sense. Yeah, because the times I've become lucid, the only times that I've never really tried to become lucid, but the times that I have is when something was so ridiculous. I'm like, this has got to be a dream, Yeah. I mean, this is not real.
That's helpful for the reality check, right? Because one of the other things, too, is that you need to train your logical mind and break out of the trance-like state of a dream, because dreams entrance us. So while we're in there, we don't realize we're dreaming, because the realism, everyone engages a dream as if real until they wake up. Now, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you want to really engage your dreams, you don't want to be in that unconscious driver or passenger seat of your subconscious mind. You want to kind of move into the driver's seat so that you can now start engaging your dreams the way you want. Because, again, it's a form of thinking. So if you want to recall a memory or recreate any memory that you want, you need to have experience relative to yourself. So if you want to, say, create being in the world of Star Wars, you're going to have to watch a lot of Star Wars, and you have to immerse yourself in that world so your subconscious mind gets enough stimulation of information that it can then, when you go to sleep at night, use as paint in that canvas of your mind, that blank canvas. When you close your eyes, it gets colored by all these thoughts that paint the dream, is kind of my metaphor on that. But, and it's a fun process because it's something you can do all throughout your life by training yourself through direct experience. Eating food, pay more attention. So then when you go to sleep, you're eating a pasta in your waking life, but something you really enjoy, and you're really cognitive mapping for it and working with the replay and the techniques that I was presenting in that course. When you go to sleep at night, you can find yourself at a restaurant and have delicious pasta. And it makes dreaming a lot more fun. And I like making dreaming fun because I think that's a much healthier way of approaching it than dealing with fears and nightmares. And I cover all that kind of stuff on that new site. So it's not ready yet, unfortunately. So that stuff's not there. Hopefully I can make it in time.
So the impact of some of the dreams that I've had in my life are some that I remember even when I was 5 years old, and I've talked about them I don't know how many times on this show, but I still haven't got like a real good explanation as to why they're so impactful on me. And I, you know, because I've had several dreams, several nightmares, why that one? Why there's like 3 I know of in my life that I'll always remember. What do you think those are?
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, the thing is, your volume of dreaming is probably not, for me now, I don't weigh too heavily on those 1 or 2 impacting dreams as much as I used to. When you start getting into volume dreaming, it just becomes a second way of life, so that you don't get too worried about context and meaning. Rather, you just enjoy the experience and the ride. You know, this is now engaging this fun new state, and it just all kind of just fits in really as a nice complementary experience to your waking life. And then you can see the synchronicities, you can see the synergies, and, you know, see that there's a lot more to reality than just reality here. That, you know, you're part of a larger reality system for real. I mean, there's a higher consciousness that you also operate with, and your dreams are sort of an interface to your higher consciousness as well. So, you know, this is, in my opinion, one of the areas that humanity is greatly neglected, foolishly neglected. We probably should have spent more time working with and understanding for early childhood development. You know, by parents not teaching their kids to dreams have stunted their dreaming ability by the time they're adults, because they go into atrophy and they don't become dreamers anymore.
We all should stay dreamers, that's for sure. Well, this is the last break of the night, guys. Don't forget to, I told you that we'll be at the Ozark UFO Conference, and they've already collected speakers there in Eureka Springs. David Pauldese is going to be there, as well as Whitley Strieber. And then as soon as some more speakers show up, I'll let you know, but we'll be there. So come hang out with us in April. We'll put the links on the website soon. Be right back.
Joseph Roop is your host. Pull back the blinds and uncover the truth. This is Lighting the Void Radio.
You're listening to The Fringe FM.
Somewhere between abnormal and paranormal, there's a show called Into the Paranormal. I'm Jeremy Scott. Hear me live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern on the Fringe FM.
Hey, I'm J.M. DeBord, and when I want to talk about dreams, I look up my man Joe Root and his show, Lighting the Void.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
Listen, I want to tell you about G.I. Joy from GetTheTea.com. It's the best alchemical concoction of goodies for your stomach and digestive system I can recommend, and that's all based on my experience. Packed with colostrum, acidophilus, aloe, peppermint, and turmeric. If you do your own research, then you know this is the bee's knees for the stomach and digestion. Now, due to Big Brother's ears and the eye in the sky, you know I can't go into the details about what it helped me with. All I can say is I got relief. It's non-GMO, no fillers, no preservatives, manufactured right here in the US of A, and delivered to you by the only people who stay on top of the game and are out in front. Go grab a bottle of G.I. Joy at GetTheTea.com and see what all the fuss is about. Again, that's GetTheTea.com.
OMG! People are jumping on board to the Life Change Tea Regiment. Brew, steep, and drink for a gentle, taste-great cleanse. It's changing how they feel. See what everybody's talking about. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Life Change Tea aids in digestive slowdown and helps people get moving down a healthy path. We won't make claims. We'll just let you decide. Experience is much better than a commercial anyway. If you want results, log on to getthetea.com and purchase your Super Strength Cleansing Tea. You won't be disappointed. And if you're looking for some mind-body suggestions, go to YouTube and punch in the search bar Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. Put power into your health now. So, getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com for Super Strength Tea. And YouTube, Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now for valuable suggestions. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
Hi, this is Sammy. Join us in the Deep South as we're lighting the void with Joe Roop on The Fringe FM.
Right, me old Chinas. I know it's an ad break, but before you lot shoot off and make yourself a cup of Rosie Lee or whatever else it is you're going to sling down your Gregory Peck, you need to listen to me babble. If, like me, you found your way to Lighting the Void via a downloadable podcast, you might want to take a butcher's at the Fringe FM Wind and Kite. You won't Adam and Eve how many other shows there are or what they rabbit on about. Ancient history, conspiracy, the consciousness, the esoteric, the occult, metaphysics, parapolitical, ufology, technology and spirituality, to name but a few. They got featured hosts like Ryan Gable, Jeremy Scott, Alex Exum, Tim Doyle, Cortana and Gigi, Susanna Ross, the Reverend John Polk, Michael Deacon and J.D. Lewis. You might find yourself listening to the thoughts and theories of the author of The Fish you just finished reading. Or you could pick up the dog and bone, call in and tell everyone your own beliefs or experiences. So do me a favour, before you put on the Ansel or crack open a bottle of vino or roll a joint, go to the Fringe FM and see what you're missing.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You are listening to The Fringe FM.
You can tug all day long on a carpet that's been glued to the floor. Then you hurt. There are many strong glues out there. Let's see, there's liquid nails and Gorilla Glue. You ever try to remove 3M 5200? That adhesive is strong. Then there's bathroom caulk, silicone rubber, adhesive tape, super glue, flex tape, and stickers. Graffiti. Scientists have come up with glues that stay stuck and can't be removed. Until now. Until Handyman Formula by DeBord. That's right. 95% of adhesives become unstuck when you spray Handyman Formula directly on them. Just spray, wait a few minutes, and remove. It's amazing. Most adhesives become unstuck when you use Handyman Formula. Visit DeBondCorporation.com or MCMaster.com. Call 561-575-4200. This stuff really works. Handyman Formula by DeBord, a great Christmas gift.
You're listening to Lighting the Void. The call-in number is 1-800-588-0335. If you would like to text, you can text in at 501-777-5631.
All right, Ian Wilson is still here with us tonight as our guest. DeBord was also with us tonight. We're talking about dream and consciousness exploration. And the phone lines are open. It's 1-800-588-0335. I believe Craven and Pacho are still on the phone here with us. We do have a new caller. It looks like 410 area code. You're on the air. Who are we speaking with?
Hey, Joe. It's Fee. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, what's up, Fee? What's going on, brother?
Nothing much. I actually wanted to get Ian's opinion on some experiences I've had with experimenting with meditation and that kind of stuff.
Okay, shoot. Go ahead, tell him.
So, yeah, it was really about a month ago was the last experience I had, because frankly, it kind of shook me to the point that it didn't really happen again. But anyways, actually getting into the experience, what I believe happened was I got into some kind of hypnagogic state, like I was half asleep, half awake, and reality, my perception of reality itself became kind of fuzzy. So say, and it was based on what I asked questions about. So say, for instance, I say, is this wall real? The wall would kind of start deforming, and it was just kind of strange. And at a certain point, I just kind of said, I don't think this reality is real at all. And then all the walls fell down, and I saw just darkness, and then instantly I just popped out of the state, and everything was back to normal. And
who are you having a discussion with?
It was just really...
Do you know?
Myself.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but I mean, these weird visions, I just feel like it was like some kind of half dream state, because, I mean, I don't know. That kind of stuff is kind of crazy. But
was that all you got? I mean, is that all you can remember from it? Because the more details, as far as like, you know, the main plot of it. So what I mean is you didn't hear a voice or anything. You were just asking questions to a presence that you knew was there. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
or you were just talking to yourself?
Yeah, I mean, internal dialogues. I don't know. I talk to myself a lot.
Okay. So I guess what are you asking? That were you affecting that every time you asked a question, or what is it that you're wanting to know?
Well, I was wondering. What was that? A dream experience, or was that
something different?
I mean, what? Yeah, what? Have you ever had an experience like that, or?
Well, you were meditating at first, right? You weren't trying to sleep or anything. Is that what was happening?
Yeah, I was meditating, but I'm trying to determine whether I was in like some kind of half asleep state or.
All right, so you started meditating.
Can definitely.
Yeah, you slipped into something different, and now you're trying to question whether that was a dream or if it was another state of reality or whatever. I got you now. Sorry, I just couldn't figure out what you were asking, but yeah, go ahead, Ian.
Oh, I'm just saying that I build constructs all the time moving into the dream state, and that's kind of what I teach. So what you're doing when you're meditating is you're actually moving into a deeper focus state where you're now able to build these constructs, which are effectively that visual way of thinking, the dream way of thinking, and you're now engaging those processes of thought that form dream states. But of course, because you're just orientating yourself with it and you're new to it, you're starting to question the dream reality because it can present that realism. So you're like, is this wall real? And the moment you realize it's just an illusion or something that your mind's creating, your mind's like, okay, he's done, and shuts it back into that blank void-like state.
Interesting.
And you are interfacing with your subconscious mind when you're doing that. So you are having a conversation with yourself for sure.
How long did you stay? How long did you have to meditate, Fee, or how long do you think it took before you to get to that point?
I'd say 30 minutes about.
30 minutes? Man, that's a long time for me to meditate. I can barely do it for 5 minutes. Remember correctly.
Yeah, and, these experiments, I think it's just, I really think I'm just entering some kind of half asleep state, because all of these things that happen, they seem to have that sort of dreamlike quality. I don't really know how to explain it, but if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think it does. I think you slipped into something and you're not sure. It's confusing you. It's not dream, and you're not asleep dreaming, and you're not awake seeing reality, but you were in something different. And I think what Ian's saying is that you're learning to tap into your consciousness in a higher way, where you're creating environments and you're creating forms and stuff. And that what you were saying, Ian?
That's right.
Yeah. So it's not totally unnormal. I haven't been able to do that, but that is pretty trippy. Anybody else in here able to do something like that? No, not me. Go ahead, Ian.
Oh, generally when you start engaging other focus states, you'll get into that kind of possibility, right? So, meditation can lead to a deeper focus state where you're kind of going to a half awake, half asleep state. And of course, dreaming takes place in especially lucid dreaming, in the mind awake, body asleep state, right? So when the body's asleep and the mind's awake, you're in a lucid dream. So, but that's why a lot of consciousness practitioners use meditation. I don't myself meditate for dreaming. I guess use the entry state into the dream state as my process. So
we can always count on Fee though to do some consciousness exploration though. That's for sure. I mean, you seem like you've been spending a lot of time doing that. That's a good thing, man. I think that's a fantastic thing. So we should all be doing that. Although it does seem kind of scary sometimes, doesn't it? You
got to face your fears.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to ask you, Ian, about this method that's known as scrying. It's something that occultists do quite a bit, and they'll use an interface like a tarot card or a mirror or a tatua card. I almost said tatua card. A tatua card, and they will scry through that. And in the Golden Dawn, it explains something totally different. I mean, this is not remote viewing. This is not astral travel. They call it, they're very specific about it too. They call it scrying in the spirit vision, where you basically, if you looked at a tatua card, for example, it's got a picture of an egg on it, and I forget the name of it, but it's a white card with a black egg or vice versa. When as you stare into this card, it begins to flash, right? When I say flash, you'll start to see a little like light outline around the egg, and it's your eyes playing tricks on you. I mean, the magicians were very aware of that, but then they described this process of when it does that, then you close your eyes and the egg, it turns into a light color because you've been staring at it. And then they talk about moving through the egg or moving through that as if it was a doorway. And then they start to have all these visions and trace Hebrew letters and pentagrams and stuff. And they believe that these are the same methods that like Nostradamus used and other people used to see the future. I've only been able to do it once, and it was pretty profound, but not as detailed as they're talking about because it's a skill. Do you think that's real, or is there something really going on there?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say because anytime you're starting to use attention focusing, you're getting yourself to reorientate your focus into accessing different aspects of your conscious and subconscious mind, right? So again, we're dealing with the system that presents information. So I mean, I haven't worked with that method myself, but I can kind of see because it's using attention focusing that it could yield some sort of effect. But I've never practiced it. So unfortunately, from an experience perspective, I don't know too much about it.
I mean, I guess what I want to happen, and the reason why I bring this up so much, is I want a scientist or somebody that has a scientific mindset to read the very first of the Golden Dawn and see what I'm looking at here, because the first methods that they have of consciousness exploration, number one is the first thing they teach you to do is a focus meditation. They actually want you to stare at a dot, a point. They call it a point in space, and keep practice and do it every day and start to understand the 3 dimensions around it. Like, it's a big thing for them to learn how to focus. And then the other 2 exercises they do are the banishing rituals, which is pretty much drawing in the astral realm or drawing to your subconscious. And then the middle pillar ritual, which is an energetic thing, which is something you don't hear a lot of dream people talk about, is energy. I don't. But there is something to that focus thing where it's kind of showing you, I think magicians figured all this stuff out a long time ago. They just weren't scientists, and they didn't have machines. They didn't have stuff to measure.
That's right.
So they just called it something,
But I mean, that's how we started, because we're always working on creating language around experience, and that's always difficult, right? So, at least with science, because they're only ever dealing with objective reality, it's easy to label something that people can always see. But when it comes to subjective experience, especially dreaming and any kind of that the science is always hidden behind an argument, and they call it, like it's anecdotal, or, just because you experience something, it's not real, it's not scientific, right? But that allows them to escape not, having to research or look at the overwhelming body of anecdotal evidence, because dreaming is entirely anecdotal. I mean, yet, we know that everyone has them. But so it doesn't really apply to consciousness, yet they try to force that on consciousness. So the truth is, from these types of discussions, we start to connect based on direct experience, and people go, oh yeah, I've had that experience, or I've had that experience. And that's kind of how we validate that there's something bigger going on with those processes. So it's good to reveal those processes because of the people that are listening are relate to it through experience, right?
Yeah, I mean, this book, this Golden Dawn method, was established in 1888. It was like one of the first original magical orders. And I've got the book in my hand from Israel Regardie, and it says the meditation number 1, the very first thing they teach their neophytes. It says, consider a point as defined in mathematics, having position but no magnitude, and let him note the ideas to which gives rise. Concentrating their faculties on this as a focus, let him endeavor to realize the immanence of the divine throughout nature and all her aspects. Now, that to me sounds like when people talk about I forget the name of it, the experiment, the double slit experiment. It's almost like the magicians were using that to realize that we were creating reality. Almost to like when you read the book, the Sefer Yetzirah, it seems like a Hebrew book. It seems like it's talking about, it definitely is talking about points in space, but they don't describe it that way. They describe it through the zodiac, and they describe it through Hebrew letters, but it's a cube that they're talking about, It's pretty fascinating, man, that we just need to wake up. We just need to wake up.
That's
man.
right.
I think that's what's going on here. I talked about that last night. Yeah, last night I went into this big thing where we're all scared and we're all freaking out. We're all worried about what's going to happen to us, or this, being in a slave society or whatever. But then you got people like Ian and JM and Craven, Pacho. You got people that are waking up, and I think if we could just all wake up and see what's really going on here, we probably wouldn't have to worry about any of this. We could take matters into our own hands, I think. I really do believe that.
There's something similar to that in dream yoga.
The focus thing?
One of the, yeah. So it's called, this guy, he's a Tibetan kind of sort of priest, sort of. So they use a different name, but they call it Zen. And what it is it's a meditation where you focus on a particular symbol, and the symbol is supposed to be relating to your practice it's supposed to be inspirational in some way. So like they focus on like particular symbols in Tibetan Buddhism, and the whole point of it is to realize the illusory nature of what you're focusing on. So the object of focus, you're orientating yourself in a state of meditation and focusing on this object while also cultivating a sense of it being an illusion. And that is to kind of cultivate this state of increased awareness. So as you're navigating this kind of physical reality, you slowly raise that awareness of the illusory nature of it, that it's a kind of a production of the mind. And that's one of those kind of basic meditations. It's pretty great, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. See, I guess it sounds kind of wackadoo for me to say that, maybe to some of y'all, but, Daniel Joseph's going to come back on this show, and Dr. Stylianos Teshlus was one of the people that could interact. He figured out how to interact, like go into whatever you want to call it, the out-of-body experience, dream state, or whatever, and moved objects. There were so many people that talked about it. Like he could do that. He moved a knife in a room one time. Now, if you can do that, then that kind of explains some of the UFOs we see, or quote UFOs, what we think they are, knocking out nuclear stuff, Imagine us being able to do that. What power could hold against us if we could do that?
Well, so like, what was I going to say? So this kind of practice is, if we don't do these kind of practices, if you're just kind of chilling, thoughts and feelings and all this stuff is just being produced and kind of arises spontaneously, right? So these practices focus. It's focus, it's attention, it's awareness, and so then you can willfully set aside or use your perception as a tool and kind of, use your intention to guide yourself, and using your perception as this tool, usually it's like, it can be a lot of chaos. But if you learn how to kind of bring it into this relaxed, what we've been talking about, Ian's talked about like the focus state, right? So it's like you're using meditation, you're using attention, and all the traditions have these similar practices where you're learning how to, the ins and outs of using your perception, letting go of your senses or using your senses to your advantage, and being able to like move in and out of those states at will,
Yeah, that's what we got to do first, right? Then maybe we can interact. But we only got a few minutes left here. And Ian, since, we brought you on as the original guest, is there anything that you want to tell our audience about, dreams, consciousness, or give your links out, whatever's on your mind? Because we only got a few minutes left here, and I want you to say what you got to say, brother.
Sure. So, you could check out my one website, youaredreaming.org, for the more deeper metaphysical side of dreaming. But if you want to go to the fun side of dreaming, I got dreamingforgamers.com. And that one is not done yet, but it's done enough that you can get at least a taste of some of the fun side of dreaming.
Fair enough. Craven, you got a blog or something. Do you want to share it, or do you want to not share it? It's up to you. Some people don't like sharing that stuff, but I know you got a blog.
Yeah, it's not very active, but I've got a website called whataboutdreams.com. You can check it out. I've got a couple things in the works, but that's what I've got so far. But mostly I'm just focusing on my practice.
Pacho, you been meditating lately, brother? Pacho.
Micro moments.
And Fee, brother, please,
micro
man.
Moments of meditation.
Micro moments is good, though. Anything's better than nothing right now. Fee, keep us posted, man. I think you're on to something. I think you're probably more skilled than you think you are at what you're doing, and not knowing what's going on and questioning those things is always good. And you remember, I don't know if you heard, when Thomas Campbell came on here, he talked about that specifically. When you get into those unsure places or states of fear, maybe kind of hang in there, if something don't make sense, and push through it, because you might actually level up, so to speak, right? And yeah, so thank you all for calling in. I really appreciate it, man. And we got to get out of here. Yeah, Ian, it's good to have you on, and I want to have you back on too, and we'll do this again sometime for sure.
That sounds wonderful.
All right, guys, we got to roll out of here. Look, we'll be here tomorrow night at the same time, same channel, right here live on the Fringe FM at 9 p.m. Pacific. Big shout out to my producer who's here with us right now, Pacho. Also to you guys in the chat room. The music was by Chronox. If we play a guitar, that's usually by Bundy. Please don't copy the show without written permission. And we'll see you guys tomorrow night. Stay tuned for the Secret Teachings right here on the Fringe FM. Good night.
And opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, its sponsors, affiliates, or staff. Listener discretion is advised.
Oh,